Hello, 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 hello. This is Scott and Sophia doing it again. We're going to be talking about another hot topic. We're going to be talking about feminism and equality, and we'll be covering Jordan Peterson video, and we'll just be kind of discussing it. Again, we're going to be taking call-ins. We're trying to get a lot of people to call in and engage this time. So please, if you want to join in the show, to join in the discussion, please go ahead and jump right on in with us, man. We're just going to go through the video and we'll discuss it. And if you want to jump in and talk and engage, please do. And if you like what we're doing here, please like and subscribe to the show. And we welcome more people. And yeah, so as we get on, we're going to introduce Sophia again. How's it going, girl?
Hi, everything going good?
Good,
Hopefully.
good, good.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. It seems like the connection's looking good. The camera's looking good. The audio sounds really great. So it looks like we're doing well so far.
All right, let's cross our fingers.
And our toes and our eyes. Heck yeah,
That's
man.
right. Don't make me cross my eyes.
But
okay, so today's topic is feminism, right?
Yep, that's what it is. Feminism, equality, and there's different versions of feminism. There's like first wave, second wave, third wave. I guess most people kind of look at today's version of feminism as third wave feminism. Where do you stand on feminism in general?
So obviously, since I'm a woman, I'm pro-woman, right? But
right.
I think feminism is appropriate when women are actually being oppressed. So that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Right, when they're actually being oppressed. Gotcha. And I take it you don't really think that women are as oppressed today as they may have been in the past or at all?
No, I wouldn't say not at all, but definitely not the way that it used to be. But with the whole thing about these misogynistic males who claim they're women, that's a form of oppressing women, I would say.
I see. Yeah, like with the trans movement and men trying to become physical women.
Well,
they
it's not
call
so
themselves
much
women. It's almost like hijacking or appropriating a gender.
It's not so much that they identify as women, which I really don't care, if that's what they feel, if that's what they want to do. It's just when you try to, it's when you're going into my space and taking away my rights that it becomes a problem.
Okay. Exactly. I understand that too. And for myself, like I would say I'm for women. So I would be considered a feminist in some version because I think that it's kind of self-defeating in society to, reject an entire population from being part of this great, experiment. So it's like if we don't hire the talent of women just because they're women, or try to, block them from opportunities, that kind of hurts the economy. It hurts everything at the end of the day. And the same with anything else. When it comes to teachers, women are great teachers. Women are great.
Not everyone would agree with you.
Yeah, I know. I know. I have a few Christian friends. We've kind of went, we kind of hit heads on that one a couple times over the years. They feel like women's place is not to be teachers, but they should remain in silence.
That's real funny. That's real funny to me because we actually automatically are put in a teaching position by nature, I would argue, because who stays at home with the kids or, before we became all modern and threw our kids in daycare and stuff like that. But even then, in daycares, that's mostly women. In schools, that's mostly women. So I don't know.
I know. Of course, some people say, well, that's regarding teaching godly things. When it comes to God, you can't teach that because that's not their place. God has a role for them, and their role their role is to be the subservient one, the weaker vessel, the one that's to be taught by their man and stuff like that. But maybe they don't feel the same way when it comes to teaching in the classroom or something like that. But I know many evangelicals do feel that way. They feel like, women can't teach in any capacity because it's a form of authority. You know what I'm saying? And for me, all of it's silly. Anytime you're trying to block talent and block you're blocking your blessings, man. It's like a woman can be your blessing. It's like behind every great man is a great woman. And,
and vice versa,
yeah.
To me, it's just common sense. We should work together. How about that?
Right. What's wrong with that? Right. But, many people will say, on the other side, will say, well, when you say that there's no oppression, Sophia, you're trying to make it easy for the men to get away with murder here. You're saying that are you trying to say that it's okay for men to lord it over women the way they are today? You seem to be in denial about this oppression that's going on. Like, why are you denying the oppression that's happening today? Like with the gender pay gaps and things like that. Aren't those forms of, inequality that you're supporting?
Not really.
Hey, if you feel that way, call into the show. I'm sure Sophia would have fun talking about that with you.
So I think that I don't know. I'm not saying that men are better than us or anything like that, but men are more capable in certain areas than we are, I would say, especially when it comes to like physical strength. So most of the hard labor jobs are done by men, and a lot of the beautiful structures and everything else, we wouldn't have that without men, I would say. Also, like usually when there's a disaster or something, who gets saved first? Women and children. The men always got to stay behind and they might die, who gets sent off into war? Mostly men. So I don't know. We gotta see it from both sides, I would say. And then women make a lot of sacrifices too, I mean,
of course. And they're better at certain things. Like I work in a hospital, and most of our personnel in the medical field are women across the board, whether that be doctors, nurses, whoever. They're all women.
Yeah, I guess that's because we naturally have a nurturing side to ourselves, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't see anything. Well, see, I don't understand why people feel so offended by that. Like when you say that, they're like, "Oh, we're only good for being nurturers." You're saying we can't be engineers. We can't be like I work in an IT field. We have one woman that works with us. Hey, Melissa, how you doing? She's great, smart, wonderful, has a great drive. She knows how to take over projects, and she has that tenacity. But for some reason, in every IT field, it's always dominated by men, and it's a very competitive field. And but women can do it. I think it just has to do with the kind of woman we're talking about. Like, not every kind of woman is cut out for that kind of work, and it's not like I don't know how you feel, but
I think it just depends on the woman. I think that the opportunity is there for a woman to do it. That's for sure. So there's no oppression there, because if you want to do it, you can. I will say that, some males are very misogynistic, and I've experienced that on the job because I was doing jobs that are not typical for females. And I would be like sometimes the only female at my job. And so, dudes would be disrespectful and shit like that, but yeah, man, I just handled it. Just handle that. And you have to be competitive, you do have to be competitive and stand your ground, but the opportunities are definitely there, and women can do pretty much anything they want to do and put their mind to, I think. And then a lot of women simply don't want to do what men do.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
That's also a factor,
Well, speaking of that, we've got a video here with Jordan Peterson where he actually talks about these sort of topics. So we can do a little reaction video as we do our show. We'll kind of go through this really quick, and I'll go ahead and get the tape rolling.
Hostile towards men. These are the areas of study dominated by the postmodern stroke neo-Marxist claim that Western culture in particular is an oppressive structure created by white men to dominate and exclude women. But then I want to put
minorities too dominate.
Okay, sure. But I want to put to you that here in the UK, for example, let's take that as an example, the gender pay gap stands at just over 9%. You've got women at the BBC recently saying that the broadcaster is illegally paying them less than men to do the same job. You've got only 7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies.
Yeah.
So it seems to a lot of women that they're still being dominated and excluded, to quote your words back to you.
It does seem that way, but multivariate analysis of the pay gap indicate that it doesn't exist.
Hey, there's too much echo in
That's
here.
not true, is it?
Oh,
I mean, that's
absolutely
9% pay gap.
That's
That's
my
a gap
problem.
between median hourly earnings
Yeah,
between
That
men and
better?
women.
but there's
That
multiple.
exists.
Yeah, but there's multiple reasons for that. One of them is gender, but it's not the only reason. Like if you're a social scientist worth your salt, you never do a univariate analysis. Like you say, well, women in aggregate are paid less than men. Okay, well, then we break it down by age, we break it down by occupation, we break it down by interest, we break it down by personality.
But you're saying basically it doesn't matter if women aren't getting to the top because that's what's skewing that gender pay gap, isn't it? You're saying, well, that's just a fact of
No, I'm
life.
saying
Women
it
aren't
doesn't
necessarily
matter.
going to get to the top.
No, I'm not saying it doesn't matter either.
You're saying
I'm
it's a
saying
fact
there are
of life.
multiple reasons for it.
Yeah, but
and that
those
aren't being
reasons,
taken into
why
account.
should women put up with those reasons?
Is it just me, or is this lady seem kind of aggressive? Like,
Yeah, like I'm trying to hear where he's going. Like, shut up, woman.
yeah, like she's just like, you can't answer one. You have to answer one question at a time.
Yeah, like give him a chance to speak because it's been a long time. I haven't seen this video in a long time, and I actually forgot what he said. So I would like to hear what he said.
Yeah.
Why should women be
put up with it?
content
I'm not
not
saying
to
that
get
they
to the
should
top?
put up with it. I'm saying that the claim that the wage gap between men and women is only due to sex is wrong. And it is wrong. There's no doubt about that. The multivariate analysis have been done. So
Well,
I can give you an example.
keep on talking about
Wait a second.
multivariate
Let
analysis.
me give you an
No.
example.
I'm saying that 9% pay gap
Yeah.
exists.
Yeah.
That's a gap between men and women. I'm not saying why it exists, but it exists. Now,
Yeah, but
if
you
you're
have
a
to say
woman,
why
that
it
seems
exists.
pretty unfair.
You have to say
Hold
why
up,
it
hold up.
exists.
So she don't care.
Do you
why?
agree that it's unfair? If you're a woman,
Yeah.
Okay. Oh.
So she's like saying it doesn't matter why. What matters is the fact that there is a pay gap, and that's the problem.
Well, let's see. I want to know what he got to say. There could be a reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not necessarily.
and on average, you're getting paid 9% less than a man. That's not fair, is it?
It depends on why it's happening. I can give you an example. Okay. There's a personality trait known as agreeableness. Agreeable people are compassionate and polite. And agreeable people get paid less than less agreeable people for the same job. Women are more agreeable than men.
Again, a vast generalization. Some
It's not
women
a
are not more
generalization.
agreeable than
Yes,
men.
that's true, but that's right. And some women get paid more than men.
So you were saying that by and large, women are too agreeable to get the pay rises they deserve.
I'm saying that that's one component of a multivariate equation that predicts salary. It accounts for maybe 5% of the variance, something like that.
So surely
you
the
need about
answer-
another 20. You need about another 18 factors, one of which is gender. And there is prejudice. There's no doubt about that. But it accounts for a much smaller proportion of the variance in the pay gap than the radical feminists claim.
Okay, so rather than denying the pay gap exists, which is what you did at the beginning of this conversation, shouldn't you say to women, rather than being agreeable and not asking for a pay rise, go and ask for a pay rise? Make yourself disagreeable with your boss.
Oh, definitely, there's that. But I also didn't deny it existed. I denied it existed because of gender.
Okay.
See, because I'm very, very, very careful with my words.
Whoa.
Yep.
I like that.
She
He
playing
said he's
games.
very, very careful with his words, man. Like,
And she's trying to put words in his mouth, though.
yeah, like he's not letting it slide, man. He's kind of got a little aggressive side to him too.
Yeah.
Which
So
I
Mike
guess you
said
can-
Mike said the host is using generalizations, then claims that Jordan Peterson's factors are broad generalizations.
Yeah, that's funny, man. I tell you, boy.
I will agree,
The
though.
pay gap exists. You
oh,
accept
hold on.
that, but you're
Yes, go ahead.
I will agree. The work environment can be very competitive, and it is a known fact that men are probably more competitive than women. So, I mean, I can't say that. I can't say that he's lying there. And like you said, that lady at your job, that's not most women, though.
Right.
And those who have kind of that male energy going on, they usually make more than other
Yeah.
women and some men.
And they're very outspoken. Like, that's the one thing that we always say at work is, "Oh, don't fuck with Melissa."
Right.
Like,
Right.
she's
They're
very.
outspoken, like they have that dominant type of energy.
She don't back down, and
Right.
that's a good quality where we work, because maybe if she was kind of soft, maybe she wouldn't really do so well.
Yeah, like that one that.
Yeah, she got
fired.
railroaded. She tried though, and she lost.
It existed because of gender.
okay.
See, because I'm very,
Yeah.
very, very careful with my words.
So the pay gap exists. You accept that, but you're
Yes.
saying, I mean, the pay gap between men and women exists. But you're saying it's not because of gender; it's because women are too agreeable to ask for pay rises. So
It's
make
one
them-
of the reasons.
Okay, one of the reasons. So why not get them to ask for a pay rise?
I've
Wouldn't
done
be a
that.
fairer
I've
way
done
of
that
proceeding?
many, many times in my career.
And they
I've
just don't.
counseled. Oh, they do it all the time. So one of the things that you do as a clinical psychologist is assertiveness training. So you might say, often you treat people for anxiety, you treat them for depression, and maybe the next most common category after that would be assertiveness training. And so I've had many, many women, extraordinarily competent women, in my clinical and consulting practice, and we put together strategies for their career development that involve continual pushing, competing for higher wages, and often tripled their wages within a 5-year period. Teaching
you
them how to
celebrate that?
negotiate. Of course.
Why would you think he wouldn't celebrate that?
I don't know. I can't relate to this chick. She throws
Like-
me off.
Like, if he's the one doing it, why would he be against it at the same time? I don't get it. That's
Well,
why
she
I think
She's against the fact that they got paid more. I don't know. I don't get it.
she's silly,
going.
man. I think what it is she's got it out for Jordan Peterson, and she's trying to figure out a way to slip him up.
Or maybe
And-
she's saying a woman shouldn't have to compete that hard. Is that what she's saying? They should just
Maybe.
automatically get paid the same.
Well, it seems like she denies that's really the problem. I think she's trying to say that it's mainly because of bigotry. It has nothing to do with personality. She's trying to test him. She's trying to find a contradiction in his claim that it's really about being a competitive person, period. And she's trying to say, well, first she was trying to say, hey, you're trying to generalize women like they're not that way. And he's saying, no, not all women, but most women.
Some
This is
women,
why
yeah.
there's mostly
Yeah.
a gender pay gap. And she's saying, oh, so you're saying it's there, but it's because they're too agreeable. And he's saying that's one factor, yeah.
Right, but there's other factors.
And then she's like, so you just are happy with that? And he's saying, no, I've actually, as my profession, I try to help women to not
Train
be
them
so
to
agreeable.
be assertive. Yeah,
Yeah. And then she's like, oh, and you celebrate that?
that's
Like, why not? Why
that's
wouldn't
what I'm
you?
saying. What is she saying? Like they shouldn't have to be more assertive.
Right.
They shouldn't.
Let's see what she's
have
got to
even go
say.
through that.
I'm lost too. I haven't seen this in a long time.
So,
Of
do
course.
you agree that you would be happy if that pay gap was eliminated completely?
See?
Because that's
Then-
all the radical feminists are saying.
It would depend on how it was eradicated and how the disappearance of it was measured.
And you're
These
saying
things
if
you
it's at
can't-
the
you
cost
can't-
of men, that's a problem.
Oh, there's all sorts of things that it could be at the cost of. It could even be at the cost of women's own interests. So
Because they might not be happy if they get equal pay.
no,
Oh
because
my
it might
gosh.
interfere with other things that are causing the pay gap that women are choosing to
Like
do.
having
Well,
children.
or choosing careers that actually happen to be paid less, which women do a lot of.
But why shouldn't women have the right to choose not to have children, or the right to choose those demanding careers?
They do. They can. Yeah, that's fine.
But you're saying that makes them unhappy, by and large.
I'm saying that. No, I'm not saying.
Why
that.
she keep putting words in his
haven't
mouth?
said that so far. in
You're
the
saying it
program.
makes them miserable.
No, I
at the
said that
beginning.
what was making them miserable was having weak partners.
Mhm,
That
I
makes
agree
them
with that.
miserable.
Right.
I would say that many women around the age of, I would say between 28 and 32, have a career family crisis that they have to deal with. And I think that's partly because of the foreshortened time frame that women have to contend with. Like, women have to get the major pieces of their life put together faster than men, which is also partly why men aren't under so much pressure to grow up. So because for the typical woman, she has to have her career and family in order pretty much by the time she's 35, because otherwise the options start to run out. And so that puts a tremendous amount of stress on women, especially at the end of their 20s.
I think I take it.
Do you think that's why that kind of makes sense though? Like like they say, men mature slower, and
Yeah.
it has to do with like women have a lot to do. Like it seems like, they have kids, they have a biological clock, they have kids, they have things they got to get together quicker. And men just get to, act like little Peter Pans for.
That's what she's saying, or that's what he's saying?
That's what he's saying. He's saying that the problem with men, especially these days more and more, is that, men don't have a lot of pressure to grow up, essentially.
A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, responsibility. Whereas women have to take care of kids, especially if the guy left her or whatever, like he gets to go and, be free, where the woman, she's stuck with all the responsibility.
But isn't that speaking in favor of women?
That's what he's saying. Yeah, he's trying to say that. And I guess we're going to hear what she's got to say in response. I forget.
Issue with the idea of the typical woman, because all women are different, and that's what I want to just put another quote to you from the book.
Well,
You
they're
say,
different in some ways and the same in others.
okay, you say women become more vulnerable when they have children,
Oh,
and
yes.
you talked in one of your YouTube interviews about crazy harpy sisters. So, simple question: is gender equality a myth in your view? Is that something that's just never going to happen?
priceless.
It depends on what you mean by equality.
Being
if you
treated
mean
fairly,
men and women,
getting the same opportunities.
fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we can.
But they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise,
Well,
why would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at length?
easy. That's easy
Why
to
are women
answer
at the
that.
Didn't he just
BBC
explain
saying
that?
that they're getting
I'm about to
paid
say he did.
illegally less than men to do the same job? That's not.
Now she's going back.
He already explained that. He said because some women, first of all, don't choose those kind of jobs. Some women decide to have children, and once they have children, they're more vulnerable and they have their hands full. Another reason is because women are usually not as assertive because we're more nurturing. I mean, come on, lady, listen to what the man is saying.
Yeah, it's like she ain't even listening. Like now she's doubling down on that stuff. All right.
Not fair,
So
is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one.
7 women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it? I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of money. It's an interesting
there's a
job.
certain
You know?
number
If you go back,
of
I didn't
men,
hear it. It
although
froze
not
up
that
and he had
who are
echo.
perfectly willing.
Why would there still be a
Fairly, we could get to a point where people were treated fairly or more fairly. I mean, people are treated pretty fairly in Western culture already, but we can.
But they're
improve
really
that.
not, though, are they? I mean, otherwise,
depends.
why would there only be 7 women running FTSE 100 companies in the UK? Why would there still be a pay gap, which we've
Oh, well,
discussed
that's
at length?
easy to
Why are
answer
women
that
at the
question.
BBC saying that they're getting paid illegally less than men to do the same job?
Well,
That's not fair,
Well,
is
let's
it?
go to the first question. Those are complicated questions. Seven women. Repeat that one. There's
7
only
women running the top FTSE 100 companies in the UK.
Okay. Well, the
I mean,
first
that's not
question
fair.
might be, why would you want to do that?
Why would a man want to do it? I
Well,
mean, there's a lot of money. It's an
there's
interesting
a
job.
certain
You know?
number of men, although not that many, who are perfectly willing to sacrifice virtually all of their life to the pursuit of a high-end career. So they'll work. These are men that are very intelligent. They're usually very, very conscientious. They're very driven. They're very high energy. They're very healthy. And they're willing to work 70 or 80 hours a week, nonstop, specialized at one thing to get to the top.
So you're saying women are just more sensible. They don't want that because it's not a nice life.
I'm saying that's part of it, definitely. And so I work
So you don't think there are barriers in their way that prevent them getting to the top of those
there are some
companies?
barriers, yeah, like men, for example. I mean, to get to the top of any organization is an incredibly competitive enterprise. And the men that you're competing with are simply not going to roll over and say, please take the position.
So let me come back to my
absolute
question.
all-out warfare.
Is
That's
gender
what I was
equality
hitting at earlier.
Yep.
I don't know what you mean by the question. Men and women aren't the same, and they won't be the same. That doesn't mean they can't be treated fairly.
Is gender equality desirable?
If it means equality of outcome, then almost certainly it's undesirable. That's
I
already
want to
been,
clarify this for people who may not understand what he's saying.
Yep.
Equality to me, like he said, doesn't mean that you're going to be doing the exact same thing somebody else is doing. It just means that whatever is going on is appropriate and fair to you. For example, I'm a mother. I'm raising 3 kids. Each one of my children has a different personality. I'm not going to treat them all the exact same, but I will treat them all fair. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's not really hard to grasp.
Right. That's not that complicated. I don't understand where she's coming from.
demonstrated in Scandinavia, because in
What do
Scandinavia,
you mean by that? Equality of outcome is undesirable.
well, men and women won't sort themselves into the same categories if you leave them alone to do it of their own accord. We've already seen that in Scandinavia. It's 20 to 1 female nurses to male, something like that. It might not be quite that extreme, and approximately the same male engineers to female engineers. And that's a consequence of the free choice of men and women in the societies that have gone farther than any other societies to make gender equality the purpose of the law. Those are ineradicable differences. You can eradicate them with tremendous social pressure and tyranny. But if you leave men and women to make their own choices, you will not get equal outcomes.
Right, so you're saying that anyone who believes in equality, whether you call them feminists, call them whatever you want to call them, should basically give up because it ain't going to happen.
Only if they're aiming at equality of outcome.
So you're saying give people equality of opportunity, that's fine.
It's not only fine, it's eminently desirable for everyone, for individuals and for society.
But still women aren't going to make it. That's what you're really
It
saying.
depends on your measurement techniques. They're doing just fine in medicine. In fact, there are far more female physicians than there are male physicians.
Yeah.
There are lots of disciplines that are absolutely dominated by women. Many disciplines, and they're doing great. So
let me put something else to you from the book. You say the introduction of the equal pay for equal work argument immediately complicates even salary comparison beyond practicality for one simple reason. Who decides what work is equal? It's not possible. So the simple question is, do you believe in equal pay?
This woman is hard to deal with.
Yeah, she's not really getting the point.
I feel sorry for her husband. That's all I got to say. Yeah, it's the
Poor Jordan.
It's the manliness in me. I can't even deal with her.
For sure, man. It's like, I don't think she's really listening to understand,
But the thing about this woman, aside from all the talk, her energy, like she's fighting against men. And I'm like, if we're going to get somewhere in society, we have to work together and we got to try to understand one another. And in this video, this is a perfect example of how one person is not interested in what the other person has to say. And that's the main thing that stands out to me.
Yeah, that's what it seems like to me too.
It's very combative,
Yep.
well, I made the argument there. It's like it depends on
So
who
you don't
defines
believe
it.
in equal pay?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Because a lot of people listening to you will just say, I mean, are we going back to the
That's
dark
because
ages
they're actually
here?
not listening. They're
I'm
just
listening very
projecting
carefully, and
what
I'm
they think.
hearing you basically saying women need to just accept they're never going to make it on equal terms, equal outcomes is how you defined it.
No, I
If
didn't
I
say
was
that.
a young
I said
woman
that equal.
watching that, I would go, well, I might as well just go and play with my Cindy dolls
I
and give
didn't
up
say
trying
that.
at school because I'm not going to get the top job I want. Because
said
there's
that
someone sitting there saying it's not possible,
I
and it's
said
not
that
desirable,
equal
it's going to make
outcomes
you
aren't
miserable.
desirable. That's what I said.
Can you stop it for a second?
Mm-hmm.
This woman is simply saying that it should be handed to her. Let's keep it real. He's
Mhm,
saying
right.
if you apply yourself and if you match the assertiveness of a man, you can get to the top. But men are not going to change their nature so you can just get the job.
Right. It's competition.
It's the same way as if you in the fields where women thrive and women feel that they're professionals in, and it's because we all have different qualities and men and women aren't the same. And if a man was trying to force himself in there, but he really ain't got the same energy, a woman is going to outdo him in that area.
Like, is she supposed to just roll over and let the man take the physician's job because
Just
it's
because
equal?
he's a man, so it can be equal.
I don't know. Yeah, that's not equal. That's actually
I don't
not
understand
equality.
equality in the way that those type of people understand it. To me, everything is based on balance, keeping the balance.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
It's a bad social
desirable.
goal. I didn't say that women shouldn't be striving for the top or anything like that, because I don't believe that for a second.
Striving for the top, but you're going to put all those hurdles in their way, as has been in their way for centuries, and that's fine. You're saying that's fine.
No, I really
The
think
patriarchal
I
system
really
is
think
just
that's
fine.
silly. I do. I think that's silly. I really do. I mean, look at your situation. You're hardly unsuccessful.
Yeah,
I was
How
not
did that
saying
hard to get where I've got
Exactly.
to.
Good
So that's
for you.
okay. Battling is good. This is all
It's
about the fight.
inevitable.
But you talk about
You don't
men
fight.
fighting. I mean, let me
Why
just
would-
put another thing to you from the book.
Why
You're
wouldn't
saying
you have to
real-
battle for a high quality position?
Well, I notice in your book you talk about real conversations.
Now she just didn't even answer that question. You see that?
Damn subject, quick as shit.
She just jumped the top. You tried to jump out of that.
Lord.
Conversations between men containing, quote, an underlying threat of physicality.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
What about real conversations between women? Is that something, or are we sort of too amenable and reasonable?
No, it's just that the domain of physical conflict is sort of off limits for you.
Well, you
It's
just said
rather
that I've
unfortunate.
fought to get where I've got.
Yeah, but
What does that make me?
Well,
A
I don't
proxy
imagine-
man or
I
something?
don't imagine that to some degree, I suspect you're not very agreeable.
So that's the thing. Successful women, I'm not very agreeable.
Right. I noticed that actually in this conversation.
At least
And
you
I'm
can
sure
go
it served your career well.
Successful women, though,
She's proven
basically
his
have to
point
wear the
for you.
trousers, in your view. They have to sort of become men to succeed, is what you're saying.
Well, if they're
I've
going
had to fight to succeed,
if they're
therefore
going to
I'm an
compete
honorary
against
man.
men, certainly
In men's
masculine
field,
traits are
yeah,
going to be helpful.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
one of the things I do in my counseling practice, for example, when I'm consulting with women who are trying to advance their careers, is to teach them how to negotiate and to be able to say no and to not be easily pushed around and to be formidable. And you need to, if you're going to be successful, you need to be smart, conscientious, and tough.
Well, here's a radical idea. Why don't the bosses adopt the male bosses, shall we say, adopt some female traits so that women don't have to fight and get their sharp elbows
They
out?
would have to do that if they went into women's fields. Jesus Christ. Jesus call the Lord.
She wants us to change the system to where we don't reward that kind of energy, like she wants it to be.
She's just saying that in male environments where males have been, they should just become more feminine. She wants feminine men.
Yep, she likes feminine men.
The pay rises. It's just accepted if they're doing the same job, they get the same pay.
Well, I would say partly because it's not so easy to determine what constitutes the same job.
But that's because, arguably, there are still men dominating our industries, our society, and therefore they've dictated the terms for so long that women have to battle to be like the men.
No, it's not true. It's not true. So, for
Where's the
example,
evidence?
well, I can give you an example very quickly. So I worked with women who worked in high-powered law firms in Canada for about 15 years. And
That man was ready, boy.
as competent and put together as anybody you would ever meet. And we were trying to figure out how to further their careers. And there was a huge debate in Canadian society at that point that was basically ran along the same lines as your argument, is that if the law firms didn't use these masculine criteria, then perhaps women would do better. But the market sets the damn game. It's like,
And the market is dominated by men.
no,
So
it's
what I'm
not. It's
asking
not. The market is dominated by women. They make 80% of the consumer decisions. That's not the case
What?
at all.
If you're talking
80%.
about people who stay at home looking after children, by and large, they are still women. So they're going out doing the
Hell
shopping.
yeah.
But that is changing.
They make all
What
the
I want to
decisions.
ask
SmackDown.
Market is driven by women, not men. Okay, and if you're a lawyer
and they
in
still
Canada,
pay more for the same sort of goods. That's been proven. That men, you buy a blue bicycle helmet, it's going to cost less than a pink one. Anyway, we'll come on to that.
it's partly because men are less agreeable. Right, so they won't put up with it.
I want to ask you, is it not
Touche.
desirable to have some of those female traits you're talking about? I'd say that's a generalization, but you've used the words female traits. Is it not desirable to have some of them at the top of business? I mean, maybe there wouldn't have
They
been
don't predict
a banking
success.
crisis.
They
if
don't
that
predict
happened.
success in the workplace. The things that predict success in the workplace are intelligence and conscientiousness. Agreeableness negatively predicts success in the workplace. And
So
so
you're
does
saying
high
that-
negative
You're
emotion.
I
saying that
agree
women
that men
aren't
should have.
open enough?
I agree that men could have, some feminine traits when it comes to their families or whatever, or their communities. But man, in the workplace, it just don't really. It won't work, like he said. It's not going to be as productive.
Yeah, it's not about that there,
Right? I don't know.
She's being unrealistic.
Yeah.
Have to run these top companies.
No, I didn't say that at all.
You said that female traits don't predict success.
But I didn't say that
Intelligence and
intelligence wasn't. I
conscientiousness
didn't say that
do.
intelligence and conscientiousness
Well, you were saying that
weren't
intelligence
female
and
traits.
conscientiousness by implication are not female traits.
No.
I mean,
I'm not
that's very
saying that. I'm not saying that at
This
all.
lady
Are
keeps
women
putting
more
words in his
intelligent than
mouth.
men, by and large?
No, they're not. No, the data on that's pretty clear. The average IQ for a woman and the average IQ for a man is identical. There is some debate about the flatness of the distribution, which is something that James Damore pointed out, for example, in his memo, but there's no difference at all in general cognitive ability. There's no difference to speak of in conscientiousness. Women are a bit more orderly than men, and men are a little bit more industrious than women. But the difference isn't big. But that averages into
Plenty of men
conscientiousness.
who aren't necessarily.
Well, of
industrious.
course,
But we'll,
these are-
we'll,
Okay,
we'll
but no,
female
but you
traits,
asked me
though,
the
why
question.
are they not?
Feminine traits.
Why are
let's
they
say.
not desirable at the top of feminine traits? Why are they not desirable at the top of
It's hard to say. I'm just laying out the empirical evidence. Like we know the traits that predict success.
But we also know, because companies by and large have not been dominated by women over the centuries, we have nothing to compare it to. It's an experiment.
True, and it could be the case that if companies modified their behavior and became more feminine, that they would be successful. But
You
there's
seem
no
doubtful about
evidence
that.
for it. I'm not neither doubtful nor non-doubtful. There's no evidence
So why
for
not
it.
give it a go, as the
Because
radical
the evidence
feminists would
suggests,
say?
well, it's fine. If someone wants to start a company and make it more feminine and compassionate, let's say, and caring in its overall orientation towards its workers and towards the marketplace, then that's a perfectly reasonable experiment to run. My point is that there is no evidence that those traits predict success in the workplace. And there's
Because
this
it's never
evidence
been
is,
tried.
well, that's not really the case. Women have been in the workplace for at least ever since I've been around. The representation of women in the workplace has been about 50%. So we've run the experiment for a fairly reasonable period of time, but not, certainly not for centuries.
Yeah.
It's almost like the argument as to why can't men have babies?
Yeah. Right. Right. And look, you guys, if you want to call into the show, join the show, you're more than welcome. We've got one caller that wants to join. We've got Mike Flowerbow, who has been a guest with us before.
He needs to pronounce his name for us because I said it wrong.
Okay, well, let's Floorbow. Oh, Floorbow. There we go. Let me bring him in. Mr. Floorbow, how you doing, sir?
Oh, it's another day in paradise.
Well, that's good.
There you go. How you been, man?
It's been busy actually. Doing some shopping and stuff, and for some life-changing things. But I'll leave that to be a mystery.
Are you having a baby?
Certainly hope not. But hey, it's
You can
strange
have
things
babies
have
too.
happened. No. But I've been watching, this video I've seen probably half a dozen times. I think it came out I want to say in 2016, I think maybe 2017. And the approach of this presenter is very aggressive because what she's literally trying to do is media will take sound clips and kind of parse them together to create a narrative. Oh, so and so said such and such, and and
Right. Yeah.
and a really good example of that, I don't pick on him, is Alex Jones. They'll take a segment and they'll take a clip out of it and then determine what it means and say it means this when it doesn't really mean that. And sometimes I think it's out of not really paying attention, or it could also be where he's, trying to paint an overall larger picture of what he's trying to express.
They take it out of context.
Right. And sometimes it's accidental, sometimes it's deliberate. I think Alex Jones kind of, straddles that line, whereas this lady, she's deliberately looking for sound clips because, by saying, well, what you're saying is X, Y, and Z, right? And then Dr. Peterson's, he's all like, well, no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that at all, actually. And so
Right.
he's quick to kind of put her in her place. And so she kind of gets frustrated, but still keeping this composure, this, proper British composure.
She tried it throughout the whole video, and what she's doing is putting words in his mouth.
Oh, completely. But because what they're doing is they're looking for sound clips that they can present. So when people that are just normal everyday folks like you and I are going through, the news feed, I didn't know Jordan Peterson said this.
Right, but they show it, they present it out of context. They don't even know what all he said.
Well, and if you've ever watched any of Jordan Peterson's content, being brief is not in his forte. He's highly detailed, and goes into, it's one reason why I like him, because he goes into, very in-depth explanations as to why things are the way they are. And so early on in that segment, she brought up, there was a lawsuit in the UK that I'm actually familiar with, where you had two presenters. You had an established presenter, a gentleman that had been there for 20 or 30 years, and he had a pretty large following. Okay, and this woman was also a presenter. I think it was a similar time frame, maybe a few years less, but it wasn't like one for one. And she had put a lawsuit into the she sued the BBC because she was making 30 or 40% less than this other presenter that was doing the same job, right? Now, when you started looking into these two presenters and what their audiences were and what their news thing was, they were doing the same job in that they were, presenting news or whatever. But first and foremost, the audience of the other of the male presenter was substantially larger. Okay. And he also worked significantly more hours in the window of time that she was, saying, well, between this day and this day, this year and this year, I wasn't making the same amount of money, and that's not fair. Rah, rah, rah. Right. Or as I like to say, ree. And so, come to find out, well, you may be doing the same job. You're not doing the same work. You're not doing to the same level. You're working fewer hours. You're working fewer. You're presenting in front of a smaller audience. And just like any major sports athlete or movie star, your intrinsic value of what you're worth in those fields, okay? And you can even look at salespeople for that matter, is how much revenue you can generate, okay? So I'll get into some other examples here in a moment, but you may be doing the same job, but the outcome is not the same. This is part of the thing that they're trying to push for, is equality of outcome, right? We've gotten better in parity of equality of opportunity, right? But you have to put in the work. You have to put in the work.
That's the whole point. And
if you're not willing to put in the work, pay me because I showed up. Really?
Yeah. It goes along with that whole thing of everybody deserves a trophy. There are no losers. There's only winners that came in last.
Yeah, and my kids were growing up in that era when that was kind of becoming a thing. And I remember the look on my youngest son's face. He's 20 years old now, but he was about 11 or 12 when he came home with a trophy. I'm like, oh, cool! What'd you do? He's like, oh, well, we can play softball, and they gave me a trophy, and I'm like, I feel really cool about it. I'm like, oh, so did you win the game? And he's like, well, no, we didn't really even play. Huh? And that was when I started kind of looking into this, so this was what, 9, 10 years ago. And I'm going, so hang on, you're giving my kid a trophy just for showing up. Why don't you give them a trophy for putting in the effort of actually doing something to, do something a little bit better than the next person?
Yeah, that takes
Because,
away the whole value,
completely.
If I lost a tournament, in martial arts or something like that, my dad would be like, "Yeah, you're a loser, Scott. That's what you are. You're a loser."
What that does is it that small, seemingly innocuous and innocent gesture, right, of giving away a trophy, for just showing up. What it does, it devalues the sense of accomplishment, right?
Yep.
I can't remember. There was a one of those, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter videos, whatever, where they had this amazingly talented young black girl. She was probably in her mid 20s or so, and she was telling a story about how, when she was in high school, she had met with this lady, and forgive me if I get some of the details wrong, but she had met with her and said, I think you can be the next Miss USA, right? And so she's like, "What are you talking about? I'm just me." She's like, "No, I really think you could be the next Miss USA." So she goes and she applies for the pageant. She goes and do the pageant, and she lost. And then she went back the next year and she lost. And then she went back the next year and she lost. And this went on for this went on for, year after year after year, but she kept pushing at it. She kept driving it. She kept, what is it do I have to do to improve to be competitive in this field, right? Mm-hmm. And the process of her going through all that, which I don't think she realized at the time, it was a commencement speech. That's what it was. And I can't remember what university it was. But what the process was putting her through, even though I have my own very keen, disagreements with pageants in general, but when you're at that level where you're, 16, 17, whatever, kind of more in the adult category or young adult category, the focus and intent to accomplish this goal that she put in her mind, and she didn't give up, right? Anybody can go try something for 5-10 minutes and go, "Hey, I didn't like it. I give up." Right?
Yeah, but she kept trying, and I think her coach passed away too.
Yes,
that he finally did make it.
That's the one. And that story was so freaking heartwarming because here's this gal, growing up and however she grew up, and I honestly, it's that's relatively irrelevant in a sense because it's just the fact that her, the individual, dug in her heels and she goes, "I'm going to do this." And she figured it away, and she came from, I'm assuming humble beginnings, but I don't know. I mean, she could have been born with a silver spoon in her mouth. She could have been born dirt poor. I don't really care because you have people that are born with silver spoons in their mouth that turn into Hunter Biden. So, what do you do?
Hey, man. Look, there's a little chapter in the Bible.
That coach she had, though, was badass, man. That coach was really a force.
Oh,
in her
totally.
life,
Yeah.
We do need, we just got to encourage each other. Everybody needs somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a chapter in the Bible called "The Little Engine That Could," and I think that's a great story, one of my best. But anyways, yeah,
it's not in the Bible, boss. But hey, sure, why not?
Right.
It's a good story.
I was a preacher, so I think I know what I'm talking about.
But getting back to this feminism bit, the way I see it, okay, is women and men have different talent sets and skill sets that complement each other, right?
Yeah, that's how I see it too.
Some women are really good at certain things that men just aren't. Okay, it doesn't mean women are better. It doesn't mean men are better for the fields that they're good at. It means it means that you're different, and different does not delineate, better or worse, right?
And then we have some women who are in touch with their masculine energy,
and that's not a bad thing.
Who are very
nor is it bad. Yeah, nor is it bad for a guy to be in touch with his feminist side.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But all I'm saying
that's okay.
That's not really the norm, but it happens.
It happens. Well, and there's a whole other category of reasons why that is, as far as on the men's side, and probably similar. I would imagine on the women's side. The femininity, the masculinity of each individual, right? But I look at it from like the yin yang scenario where one complements the other. You have the dark and the light. And you have the strong, and elements of personality and skill sets. So when you have, like a household, for example, a man can't do the all the working and do the child rearing, nor can a woman do all the working and the child rearing. So the man has to provide, the ability for the woman to be able to have that freedom to do that, right?
Mhm.
And my thinking is this: if you're a woman that wants to be a lawyer, an attorney, a firefighter, great, do all those things, right? Do whatever the heck you want. If you're a woman that wants to be a mom and she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, great, do that. The thing where I have a problem with, and it's actually fourth wave feminism. Fourth wave feminism came around 2012, was a transition from third to fourth. And so the issue that you have is that you have some of the most ardent feminist types that will literally like attack other women for wanting to have a family, right? Because there are women that want to have careers. Great, more power to them. There are also women that want to have, they want to have that sense of having a home and a family to raise and things like that. They're both equally important, right? One's not better than the other. I'm better because I'm a mom and I have 12 kids. Okay. I'm better because I have a job with 12 degrees. Okay. They're both important. Why are you fighting?
Yeah.
But the issue that I have is you don't commonly see the most ardent feminists supporting women who want to choose their own life. No, you have to be this because you're just caving to the patriarchy. Rah!
Right. That's true, though. That's stupid. And
it's completely stupid.
It is. I don't know how we even got to this point where we're just fighting each other over everything. It's really sad.
I blame Twitter.
Man, it's crazy.
You got a good point. I mean, that's how they these companies get their money through engagement, so they know that pushing people's emotions are how you get it done.
And that's exactly how you control people is if you can make somebody mad, you can get them to do almost whatever you want.
Yep.
And in that regard, I'll use Canada as an example. They just recently had their elections of Francois Legault. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Francois Legault, I think he's the provincial prime minister for Quebec, and I could be wrong, but he won re-election like for a third time. Okay. And that he was the one, as far as Quebec goes, that was in charge of all the lockdowns and all like the draconian, if you leave your house between these hours, we're going to arrest you, right? Unless you're doing something we allow, like walking your dog. Okay. But the Canadian culture has been so beat down by their government. They're like, okay, as long as I can live in relative whatever, and that's not, as long, just because I have to get 96 jabs, I guess that's okay.
Good Lord.
And so, you watch what happens in other countries, developed nations, for clues as to what could potentially happen here. Right?
Yes.
And so those are kind of the canaries in the coal mine.
Yep.
It's an issue. So
it constitutes evidence because you can make a prediction based on that, and you can actually see it play out in other systems. So it constitutes evidence. But yeah, we've got another video here of Jordan Peter Cries defending modern men.
Oh yeah, I saw.
So basically, did you hear about that yet, Mike?
Yeah.
This is basically. I thought this was really sad. The left is literally making fun of him for being emotional.
Of course. Well, for being so compassionate, they're the most discompassionate group of people you can possibly imagine to anybody that dares to disagree with them.
But that same lady just said that men should, incorporate a little more feminine energy. And then when
I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah, but
when they do it,
but then when
there are acceptable amounts.
Right, but what I'm saying is, then when they do it, then this is the reaction you get from the same people.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying is
that's the hypocrisy of it all.
Capitulation just leads to more, abuse.
They're just slinging mud at each other. I mean, it's crazy. But here we go.
I don't want to, but I have to. I want to ask you just quickly, the film director Olivia Wilde has a new movie out, which she says is based on you, this insane man, this pseudo-intellectual hero to the incel community. Incel being these weirdo loner men who are despicable in many ways. Is that you? Are you the intellectual hero to these people?
Sure. Why not? People have been after me for a long time because I've been speaking to disaffected young men. Now, what a terrible thing to do that is. Thought the marginalized were supposed to have a voice.
It's making you emotional. Talk about that.
Well, God, you know.
Here, pause it
I
there for a
thought
second.
the marginalized were supposed to have a voice, he said, his voice cracking as he's
Oh,
asked
God,
about being the
TYT.
king of all incels. That's right. That is exactly what you just witnessed. This is Jordan Peterson on Piers Morgan's show Uncensored. And somehow looking like a bigger crybaby than Piers Morgan ever has. You gotta hand it to Piers for like openly asking him, like, do you bear any resemblance to this character who's like a leader of incels or kind of a violent, angry, misogynist dudes who are mad at women because they won't sleep with them and they're involuntarily celibate? And he's like, yes, I am. Obviously, Jordan Peterson, you know, the all meat diet intellectual guru, thought leader, I don't even know. Let's watch a little bit more of what he went on to say.
Wow.
All right. So
Jeez,
for
bro.
those that aren't aware, TYT, when it comes to this kind of stuff, they're the absolute worst.
I already know.
They are the absolute worst. Anna Kasparian is the most disingenuous crank I've ever seen in my entire life. Next to Chet Geiger is probably this. I think they're on par with each other, which is why they mingle so well. But they're and in case you forgot, she's better than you. Okay, a lot better. Okay, and she has no qualms about telling you how much better she is than you because you suck. I guess I don't know. But in this segment, where I think the reason why Jordan Peterson got emotional is because when you look at in the totality of like the entire kind of male sphere, okay, and how, especially in the last 10 or 12 years, how the male, anything having to do with maleness has been attacked, has been ridiculed, has been mocked, has been vilified, demonized, dehumanized. Okay, there's dozens of adjectives that you can use to where male culture has been beaten down so much, and the reason or the excuse they use is, well, because men have oppressed women for so long. And I'm like, okay, well, first let's acknowledge a few things. There are clear and convincing historical fact that women have been oppressed. I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. That has happened. However, you have to look at kind of the totality. In other words, zoom out to 20,000, 30,000 feet, and look at the totality of it. Right? Did you have events where women were abused by their husbands? Absolutely. Okay. Was it the norm by and large? I don't think so. Okay. Because
Right.
you're going to have humans, regardless of whether they're male or female, they're just going to be mean to each other. That's just how humans are sometimes. When there's a disagreement, they're going to fight. They're going to have things. And sometimes shit gets too far. Now, there were legal.
Well, can I cut in?
Yeah.
I don't entirely agree with that. I think there was a lot of oppression of women going on, especially with the Christian doctrine, where Christian men believe that a woman shouldn't really have anything to say. They weren't allowed.
Well, I think that goes to interpretation, because you're going to have doctrine, and then you're going to have how people interpret it. And one reason why you have so many different versions of the Bible. Okay.
But wasn't that kind of the norm? Like, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I grew up in a Christian.
Were there times where women were actually burned to the stake?
That's a whole different argument, because that has to do with the whole prevalence of witchcraft, and that I wouldn't put that on Christianity as a whole. That was just something that religious groups of that era had, like superstitions, and they assigned all this pointless meanings to, like, oh, well, if a black cat goes across your path from the right, it means this, and if it goes across from your left, it means that. And there was an incident where back in that era, New England, early 16 or mid late 1600s, where a black cat, a guy was walking down the street with his son, and the son threw this rock at this black cat. The cat got scared and ran into this house, right? Well, the next day, the single woman that was living in the house by herself walked through the town with a limp on her leg. She's a witch! She's a witch!
The correlation.
I understand that, but let me ask you this then. So do you think that there was ever a need for any kind of feminism at all? Not speaking of the fourth wave or third wave feminism we have
No,
now.
I think there was a definite need for first, second, and possibly third. First wave feminism, I think, was, that was the response to kind of what I would assume was a kind of a cranking, like ratcheting down the control factor in a sense. And so you can only bring people to a certain point before that contracts and and responds, right? So the first wave of feminism, the movement for voting, okay, the suffrage movement, I think those were all important elements in history. Those needed to occur.
Okay, so you think that was valid. And what about you, Scott?
Yeah, of course. Like, I think that we came out of the dark ages. I mean, we were just getting into the industrial age, out of the dark ages, and it was a transitional period. And like you said before, the church pretty much socially engineered society for the most part. The Catholic Church, and then later on the Protestantism pretty much engineered society, to be Bible believers, to understand roles of women, men, what was acceptable, what wasn't for these roles.
Right. And that goes,
obviously it's been an evolution.
The only thing I'm doing right now, sorry, I'm just get this one last little thing out. Well, the only thing I'm doing right now is because I don't want to sit here and say it was not even necessary at all, and it's all a bunch of BS. But at the same time, can we look to the past and see why it was needed, and then look at the present and see that it's really not like that anymore? It's really not needed on that level.
Well, that brings up a question, because the thing you hear is systemic this and systemic that and systemic patriarchy.
That's exactly what it was going to lead me into, because that's kind of the strategy that's being used with everything. Black Lives Matter, and we're always stuck in the past, but we're totally ignoring all the progress that
exactly, all the progress that we made.
And the progress has always been made at the cultural level.
Well, of course, but the question that somebody needs to ask, somebody else as well, we're just making up for all the wrongs that were done 50, 70, 100, 200 years ago, right? So I asked the question, okay, so what laws are on the books, okay, today, right now, that are affecting you and me? What laws are specifically giving men more rights than women? And they'll look at you and they'll,
or you say
no. That's a question that you ask somebody that that would be fall under the flag of fourth wave, right? And 9 times out of 10, one or two things will happen. They'll pivot and just say, bring on some. Oh, well, back then, 50s and the 60s. No, I'm talking about today, right now. Okay.
Well, I've heard white women. I'm saying white women because I never heard this argument from black women, and I'm not trying to be a racist here or anything, but I've heard white women when I ask that question. Because I want to know, because I'm a woman, I want to know how am I being oppressed, because if I'm being oppressed, I'm going to do something about it. Well, anyway, she was saying that one form of oppression is that when a woman is married to a man, she has no right to get an abortion or a right not to have children or something like that. And she can't get her tubes tied or whatever unless she's had a certain amount of kids. I don't know if that's true. I never really looked into that. But
I know of no legislation that is enforced in this day and age that prevents a woman from going to a doctor and, hey, you know what? I want to get my tubes tied.
Yeah, but according to this woman, that the husband has to be in agreement with it if she's married, and if the husband
she might be referencing something that was true maybe in the 40s and 50s.
So that's no longer true.
Maybe in this. I don't believe so. No, I could be
wrong.
wrong.
That's literally the argument she gave me, as if like she was gaslighting me, as if this is going on right now. So for anybody who may be watching, if anybody's watching the show, I can't see how many viewers we have right now, but if you guys would look into that for me, and I'm gonna look into it as well.
Yeah, leave a comment. Leave a comment as far as what specific law that is. I highly doubt it exists, and if it did, it's one of those laws, because you got to remember there are literally innumerable numbers of laws that that exist on the books for all sorts of things, right? Go Google up stupid laws, in a given state. I always like to use the laws like you can't go fishing from horseback, or you can't on Utah roads you have to give right of way to a bird on the freeway. It's like, how does that freaking work? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Or
you know, that's the thing is about the past. You know, the one thing that I noticed with the left, and we've gone through this all along this week, being Sophia with folks, is that oftentimes the social norms of the past are trying to be made up for the future. Like, you know, there was a time when slavery, when women's roles, any kind of topic you can speak of were the norm back then. You know, like,
oh yeah, but ask yourself this: why were those things the norm, right? Because
well, I mean,
I think
right. But that aside, the only point that I'm trying to make is that it's kind of like trying to hold people responsible today for how
for things
we
in
as
the past.
human beings sort of thought and acted, you know, hundreds or not thousands of years ago, right? Like it just doesn't connect.
Right,
So,
but then they will say, but it's not the people that we're holding accountable for what happened. We're holding the people accountable for it still existing in the system, and the same people, meaning the same race, is still benefiting from it. That's
so
what they're saying.
right. So what they're doing is they're conflating the existence of today. That was, you know, as some will purport to say, well, this system today was built on the backs of X, right?
Right.
Which is not actually true. And the system that was provided for us by the founders of our country allowed for the system to evolve to include more people, because at the time that, you know, our founding documents were written, okay, there were nuanced realities that the world was already there. So here comes this new idea, okay, to change things, but they can't just, you know, change everything overnight and be like, okay, well, we're going to turn off this switch all of a sudden, and now everything's going to be the way it's supposed to be. No, it's like you're changing the direction of like a very massive, large ship. Lots of moving parts have to be involved for that direction to change. So you can't just wake up in the morning and sign a document. Okay, slavery is illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have, well, it ended up becoming in the Civil War, right? But to make those changes, to change mentality, to change perceptions, a framework has to be established in skeletal form, like you're building a house, okay? You don't just show up at a lot and go, okay, I got a house. No, you have to prep the land, you have to prep the soil, you have to, you know, dig the foundation, you have to put the sticks up.
There has to be provisions made. You can't just
there's a process.
Yeah.
There's a process to make everything work, right? You can't just change something overnight. Okay. So
yeah, I get it, man. It's the same thing that's in a different, for any sort of change or evolution, there has to be an entire environment to be conducive for that change in order for it to be a healthy form of change. Otherwise, it's going to be detrimental. And by the way, before we get into the video, I just want to let the audience know, number one, if you like what we're doing, please like and subscribe.
Yes.
Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We're going to always keep having good conversations. And,
hey, real quick, I'm gonna hop out. I'm gonna hop out into the backstage for a little bit because I got to read something, but I'm gonna listen here and I'll jump back on here in a minute. All right?
Okay, perfect, man.
And also, Scott, give a shout out to this person that wants to challenge me on some of my views. What was his name?
Sure thing. So we've got right now, who I'm seeing in the audience, we've got Jason Rice.
Hey, Jason.
What's up? We have Leah with us.
Hey, Leah, my mini me.
And I don't see anyone else. Do you see someone else in the audience?
No, I was talking about the guy you were telling me about in private that wants to challenge me.
Oh yeah, if Mike Augustine wants to come on and talk to Sophia,
you can send him the video later and tell him he's more than welcome.
Please come on through, Mike, if you're there. And anyways, let's get back into the video. We can keep this going too.
It's very difficult to understand how demoralized people are. And certainly many young men are in that category. And you get these casual insults, these incels. What does it mean? It's like, well, these men, They don't know how to make themselves attractive to women who are very picky, and good for them. Women, like, be picky. That's your gift, man.
Say that again.
Olivia Wilde, what do you know?
Yep.
I think that's going on both sides. So I would have to say that's not just women being picky with men. Men are also picky with women.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Let's keep it real, not keep it real.
About Olivia Wilde? Well, I'll tell you, the first thing you need to know is that Olivia Wilde is a feminist. And if you didn't know she was a feminist, check this picture out of her wearing a shirt that says feminist, okay? And in case this shirt does not make it clear that she's a feminist, she also, once upon a time, wore this skirt. And the skirt, if you can't read it and you're listening to this podcast, it says feminist, feminist. Hello, it's like 300 times around the skirt. In case you missed it, Olivia Wilde is a feminist. And in case you are someone who only speaks English, she also wore this. Yes, that is Olivia Wilde wearing a shirt that in French reads Solidarité Féminine. I don't know if I'm saying that right because I don't speak French, but I'm pretty sure it means that she's a feminist. And in case that wasn't abundantly clear to you, that she was a feminist, just check her out wearing this pokey hat. Yeah, there she is. There she is. She's a feminist, guys. And it's pink because girls like pink. She's a feminist.
In 2019, men accounted for 80% of all deaths in America.
I don't know. I'm not familiar with her.
That part of the video, I don't know because I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. How did he get off Jordan Peterson? Let me scroll to his part.
I'm not exactly sure what that point was all about, but in this section, this is actually important. It's about the suicide rate of men.
Oh, okay. Let's check it out.
80%. And the studies also show that a majority of American men who die by suicide have no known history of mental health problems because they don't talk about them. It's not that they don't have any mental health problems. They don't talk about them. And when they do try to talk about them, and like Jordan Peterson, listen to Jordan Peterson, subscribe to Jordan Peterson, or anybody else speaking out about these issues, they get attacked. They get featured in an Olivia Wilde movie as some sort of demon. So screw her.
Oh, I see how that plays into it now.
I'm unwell. I need help. I need help. I just wanted to meet you. I'm unwell.
I hope that you
up there.
I want to find the help that you need.
We've met some of your fans, and we got the impression they were all male fans, the ones that we talked to, and that they were struggling with their manhood, and that you give them this message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay. It's necessary. What the hell are we going to do without men? You look around the city here, you see all these buildings go up, these men, they're doing impossible things. They're under the streets, working on the sewers. They're up on the power lines in the storms and the rain. They're keeping this impossible infrastructure functioning, this thing that works in a miraculous manner. They work themselves to death, and often literally. And the gratitude for that is sorely lacking, especially among the people who should be most grateful. You see university professors, especially of the social justice bent, who are among the most protected and privileged people that the world has ever produced. They take everything they have for granted, failing to understand entirely that there's a massive infrastructure of unbelievably hardworking, solidly laboring, working class men breaking themselves in half on a regular basis, making sure that everything that always breaks works. And so a little gratitude for that is in order. And it's very useful to tell everyone, not just men, that they have an important role to play, a necessary role, and that if they act properly and honestly and forthrightly, that they can put their lives together and they can help their families.
Demonstrating a lack of empathy while a man is displaying his emotions is exactly the reason why men choose not to display their emotions. But
Yep. And that is, again, the result of thousands of years of evolution and societal evolution. Like, we've come out of the dark ages. And back in those times, as you know, men were supposed to be heroes. Men were not supposed to cry. Men were supposed to be strong. That was their nature. And it was always exaggerated.
Right.
And no one ever, at least in Western culture, gave any sort of validation to the feminine side, to where men could be compassionate, men could be anything but that, a hard line male energy. You know what I mean?
Because if they showed any sign of that, that was a sign of weakness, and it wasn't acceptable. So, and then when a man does show that side, he gets laughed at. So I can understand the conundrum. Trust me.
Yeah, it's vulnerability. Like Jason Rice says out here, vulnerability is asking for destruction always, because that's how men view it. That's how, women not so much, but men view being vulnerable as a weakness and something you should always be protective about. Because if you go out here and you're vulnerable, you ain't going to last too long.
Right.
You're really not. So.
And women are most of the time expected to be, but hell, even for a woman, I don't like to be vulnerable much,
Yep, exactly.
But the hypocrisy here is simply overwhelming, because you choose to mock Jordan for his empathy for forgotten men. Yet you cry oppression when men question #believe all women. Imagine a world where it was tolerated to mock or to laugh at women that have been verified for being physically assaulted. The reaction towards Jordan's tears is a clear indication of the double standards in our society and the lack of care for men's issues at all. Being a content creator myself, I understand why Jordan shed tears. I personally received countless messages from disaffected young men that feel ostracized or shunned from society, on the verge of deleting themselves. And it too has an impact on me. Dear men, understand this. The world has no sympathy for you. Nobody will come to save you. It is incumbent on you not to dwell in your unhappiness or to sit in your abyss of dissatisfaction, and to not feel sorry for yourself, but to forge a path full of happiness, satisfaction, and joy. Dig deep to understand who you are in determining your purpose. Train your body hard, gain a high income earning skill, and build and sustain fantastic relationships within your life. And while you do all of that, ensure that you are disciplining your mind to be consistent in a world full of distractions and short-term dopamine hits. Never give up and pursue forward.
The problem is, in this society, male energy, male thinking, male is vilified, and you're taught to think there's something wrong with being masculine.
That's just clip. So the video is pretty much done.
Gotcha.
So what I want to add to that is, and I'm probably going to be called a bigot for that as usual, but it's just, to me, it's just so ironic. So the men who are real men, who work hard and all that kind of stuff, take care of their families, if they show vulnerability, they get laughed at and mocked. But then you have transgenders. A lot of them are very misogynistic males who want to be women and are in competition with women. So when they get up there and cry and boo-hoo, like they're being mistreated, even though they're invading our spaces, then the whole world goes, yeah, I'm going to show them sympathy. What the fuck? I don't know, man.
Yeah. Well, for me, I was called toxic masculinity because I had an opinion about
male. You're a toxic male, Scott, man.
Yeah, toxic male. They were like, he's a toxic male because he thinks that he's not a bigot when he and correlates a female with a woman in my language. And so
that's crazy.
Said he's toxic. He's still holding on to toxic masculinity, and you can hear by the way he talks about things, he's got a problem. That's what was told about me. He's got some major man problems. And it's like, I don't see that as a problem. Like, I don't have any psychological problems. That's, what people need to understand is us older guys in our 40s and 50s, we come from a different era.
Uh-huh.
That's just what was normal for us. Like all this new stuff, this is new stuff for us. This is like an evolution in society.
We're supposed to just get it, get it or you're a bigot.
Right.
Yeah, right. I could be a rapper.
Right. And the way I look at bigotry is an intention to hate on somebody because of the group they are supposedly categorized in. I don't even see people in groups. I try not to. I mean, I only say it in groups if it's easy as a heuristic when you're speaking. But as far as seeing people as, oh, he's black, so he fits this mold, so he's got to think this way, talk that way, be that way. Or if you're a trans person or a gay person, then you're this kind of person. I don't see people that way. I see people as people. Like,
right.
It's not about being a social construct. It's about being real. Like all this social construct stuff is just fake to me. It's all fake shit, imaginary shit.
If you're
and
trans,
I'm more about real shit.
A certain way, use certain kind of terminologies, and it's like it's an idealist. It's an ideology, and if you don't subscribe to that entirely, if you don't subscribe to the ideology entirely, like script for script, then you can't be part of whatever group, and that's crazy. That leaves that cancels out individuality, in my opinion, and you're no longer a sovereign being at that point.
Yeah. And when someone says you're toxic, to me that's kind of a criticism about you. Like that's saying that you have a negative energy about you. Like it's toxic. Like when I think of being in a toxic relationship, it's like two people aren't communicating. You're just being aggressive to each other and poisoning each other, by constantly reinforcing that poisoning. And it's like, that's a toxic sort of relationship. So when someone says that my masculinity is toxic, it means that I'm poisoning society or poisoning something. You know what I mean? And I don't think that I'm poisoning anything. I think that I'm just a person who has the right to their opinion and the way they talk, and I have a sovereignty like everyone else. And if another person wants to identify in any way they want, I don't have a problem with that. And I think that that's totally fine. I just don't like people to, just like it wouldn't be right for me to tell them you can't identify and you can't use words your way. They shouldn't be able to do the same to me. It should just be a respect.
Right. So
respect.
I see what you're saying. On one hand, you're trying to control the speech of others and how we should refer to you and all this other stuff. But on the other hand, they can say to you whatever the hell they want to. So it's like, where's the equality there? That's not equal. And I agree. We should be entitled to our opinions. I understand what Jordan Peterson was saying about hey Jason, finally you're here. Oh, I'm speechless now. I want to hear Jason now.
Well, I've set up something so I've got an echo going on, so I'll have to figure out how that works.
Looks better than mine and sounds good so far.
Yep. Well, I did warn you, Sophie, I'm old and fat and boring, so here we are.
Be quiet. That's my Facebook dad.
All right.
So what do you think about all this, Jason?
Well, I'm going to rattle a little bit, but I am going to be fighting that echo. Scott, do you know anything about I mean,
it could be that you have another tab open. Like, do you have the YouTube in another tab? You'd want to close it out or mute it.
and that's what it was.
There you go.
It's like you've done this before.
A million times.
No, the feminism argument gets to me a lot because my mother loved the woman. She raised me as a feminist, and she's reneged for all the reasons that you could sit there and rifle on third wave and fourth wave. It stopped being about equality about 1980. And it went through a bit of a retribution phase, and now it's into a supremacy phase. And that's how every movement works, man. You know, it's a natural evolution of it. Because basically, if you ever reach the goal that you're raising funds for, you stop getting funds. And so most of the left issues fall into that nasty. It's a quicksand, right? You know, it goes back. One of my favorite Onion pieces about 20 years ago was Dell Computers. It's a little article announcing that they're closing down because our goal was to become the best computer manufacturer and the highest seller in the world, and now we are. So thanks everybody. Been a great time. Bye. And that's what you would wish feminism or poverty alleviation efforts would do. But no, it's like, oh, well, I guess it's now about I don't have enough blue cars. Yeah. Why don't I have more blue cars than the guy sitting over who has a blue car? Well, because he bought a blue car, man. No, it's got to be systemic, or I won't get funded. I mean, can't you see the systemic nature of? So,
yeah,
it's a perpetual problem that they, at one level, they're not to blame for, but new joiners are. Okay. Anybody new that falls into that is kind of like, you're sketchy, dude. But I've been following Peterson, and I mentioned in the comments, if you want to see an amazing analysis of the men's right problem, Cassie J, the documentarist, she'd done several pieces for like women's health and several women's pieces, and for some reason she turned her eyes to the men's rights movement, because it was the years before she published the movie, that was the big bugaboo. That was oh my God, men's rights are trying to crush women. It's trying to crush feminism. And you get through her documentary, and I got to say, the woman just flattened me with it. When she tried to release the movie, the feminists came in and got it booted out of most of the theaters it was supposed to be premiered in. I mean, they declared war on her. And one of the tools that she used, she went ahead and kept a video journal, a video diary as she worked through the piece, and she mixes it into the piece, and you get to see her basically get her guts cut out. She has the chutzpah to just put it out there, because usually one of the reasons that people get into documentaries is they like analyzing, they like the production, but just keep me behind the camera.
Right.
And she interviewed some of her mentors, telling her how to approach it. And then she met some of these people, some of these men's rights activists. And now remember, she's been brought into this, that these men's rights advocates are crushing women's rights. They are trying to put these women back in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant forever. And the discussion, her mentors tell her, don't even go talk to them. They're absolutely toxic. Don't even talk to them. They don't even give them the air. She says, well, and a moment of sexism here. When was the last time you ever successfully talked a woman out of something by telling her, for the love of God, don't do it? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
Quick Sticks Productions says a few things. He says that feminism is still very much needed. We are far from being any supremacy phase. Look at the Middle East.
How's that my problem? And why aren't they working
That's
on
the
that?
Middle East, though. Like, really?
The Middle East is a way to move the argument off of what we're talking about right here.
Right.
Wow.
The Middle East is the Middle East.
Right.
The Middle East is the Middle East.
Right.
If you're telling me that you're oppressed and you're terrible, I have a very simple thing. I actually have a link to it on my phone. You're not going to believe this. It's very simple. Okay, fill out this form, and then I'll consider you equal. Anybody got a hint what my link is to? Oh yeah, Scott does. Scott's nodding because there's not a man alive that doesn't remember not being able to sleep the night before his 18th birthday. Do you remember what you were thinking about the 18th birthday?
Oh yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
Yep.
It's a link to the Selective Service.
Oh man, that's a good point, Jason. That's a really good point.
The morning of your 18th birthday, you have signed your life over to the government. Unless you're a woman.
Yep. Absolutely, man.
But then I recommend highly looking at the Red Pill movie, just because, like, you know, you can get, there's a lot of petty little, you know, gotcha pieces you can do about, well, guys get to do this and well, girls get to do this. It is a beautiful story of, I mean, honestly, one woman's dedication to an idea that she probably should have dropped halfway through, because it pretty much ruined her career, and she knows it when she publishes. But the argument that, well, feminism isn't done because of other things are going other places in other cultures that are doing things orthogonal to what the Western Enlightenment is doing and has done and has achieved. You know, the feminism is a natural outgrowth of just pure extrapolation of the Enlightenment. Okay, just very simple. The abolition of slavery, feminism. Those are exact and precise, simple mathematical extrapolations of the Enlightenment thinking. Okay. You can't tell me I'm responsible for somebody that hasn't adopted that Enlightenment.
Yeah, I agree. That's not our job.
You know,
that's on them to evolve on their own accord. They have, I mean, we can't make them do it or make them see it. Right?
Exactly.
I mean,
right. So you can't,
I'm not saying we shouldn't
use that
care
as an
about
excuse.
them.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we shouldn't care about them. And when they come here to seek refuge, you know, they have ways to be able to get help from other countries and stuff. And I'm not saying we shouldn't help, but at the same time, what we're discussing right now, we're talking about what's going on in America. And so I would like to know from what's his name? Six Sticks. Like, can he bring up some kind of example that we're actually faced with right now here in this country as women? I really want to know, and I'm not being facetious.
Ditto.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, he did make another comment.
Oh, no, wait. Sticks isn't watching this, is he? My God.
Yeah, he's watching in real time.
Lord, no, this has got to be
where do you see who's watching it? Am I supposed to see that?
If you can see where it says you see in your right hand, you see where it says comments.
Sophie, do you have
quick sticks? Quick sticks. Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
quick
It's like, dude, if he's up late and wasting his time with hold on.
Oh, I'm in the private chat. That's why I have to switch over to comments.
Switch over to the.
I never knew that.
Ask a good question. In what way is feminism supremacist? That's a good question. But it's very easy.
He said, Jordan,
if you're really feminist, you'd be knocking out alimony. You'd be knocking out most of the health stuff.
Hey.
Looks like we've got everybody in the house tonight.
So the Euclidean is saying, hey, Misty, we had some Facebook fun here, huh? But I want to read what the Euclidean is saying. Our country is full of many diverse sexist religions like Islam, Mormonism, Amish, Mennonite. There are dozens more. These are all things in our country, and laws protect their abuse and bigotry. So that's a whole nother matter, though.
But you know what? I was part of a very sexist organization too called Jehovah's Witnesses. And guess what I did?
Ooh.
I walked away.
Right?
You know, at the end of the day,
I got a funny story about Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah. At the end of the day, you kind of have to take responsibility and actually do something about it. You don't have to be a part of these groups. You don't have to join them. If it doesn't resonate with you, you get to walk away. But guess what? In America, just like the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, you get to define what your organization is all about. It may be only including boys or girls, or it may be about biblical teaching, which comes from an entirely different ancient culture. And they have the right to practice that culture, even in America. That's what makes America great. We're a melting pot.
Leah said not everybody has an option of walking away. I know that better than anybody because I was in a cult, a physically abusive cult, and I almost lost my life. And
well, there's laws against that, isn't there?
And I got
There's
away, but
laws
that's what I'm getting to.
Yep.
My dad was also punished and prosecuted for what he did, and I testified against him. So with that being said,
that must have been so freaking hard and just
it was because they tried to make me look like I was a trash whore or some shit that had a vendetta against my own dad, which is not true. He had a vendetta against me for leaving the cult.
Lawfare is a horrible thing to endure.
Man.
Yeah, but I'm saying the point I'm trying to get across is that's not legal. You're talking about stuff that's being practiced in cult-like situations, and that's not legal, So we're not really talking about that. We're talking about what the actual law is and how are we being oppressed by the law, not by individual sects that do illegal shit,
Yeah, because and I think all sides are kind of guilty of this particular point, is that you'll have like varying levels or a spectrum of feminism, right? And then you'll have a varying spectrum of people that are more on the I don't want to call them, MGTOW is probably the closest thing I can think of right now, of Meninism.
Meninism.
And so
that sounds funny.
yeah.
I never heard of that.
Yeah, and so when you have the regular people that are kind of in the middle, right? Here's your center point, and you have some that are they'll kind of move back and forth within the spectrum, and then you have the extremists on either end. Okay, those people we should just naturally just ignore because they're so out there that all they do is make noise to distract from the adults in the room to discuss the nuances, right? So if a feminist says, well, I hate all men because X, Y, and Z, okay, well, there's a good chance that feminist may fall into the extremist category. But if there's women that are proclaim to be feminists and says, hey, I want to know about here's the issues that affect me as a woman, here's the I want to hear about the issues that affect men as men, right? And a good example of somebody who I think that does a pretty good job of that is you ever heard of Roma's Men's Army?
Yeah. Ran across them.
Yeah. I don't agree with everything she says, but she does a very good job at focusing in on the behavior, right? And it's the behavior that needs to be changed.
Oh, the Roma Army?
Yes.
Yeah. She's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you introduced me to her.
Yeah.
She's a bit of a ride, man, but
she's a bit of a ride, yeah. And she, I think she gets on the Roma's Men's Army. It's really good stuff. A lot of it is kind of TikTok based, where she'll kind of go on the zinger category. You know what I mean? But she makes a lot of good points. There's things that I disagree with her on, but I try to abide by my own personal stance of like, just because I agree with you doesn't by default mean I respect you. And just because I may disagree with you doesn't mean I'll disrespect you. Right? I can respect you and disagree with you at the same time and vice versa.
And I may not respect you, but I ain't gonna do nothing to you that's illegal.
Exactly. My rule of thumb is that beliefs and worldviews can be challenged all day long and disrespected all day long. People, that's another story. But the problem is people.
I just want to know. Never mind. Go ahead.
I was just going to say people. I don't want to cut you off. People always conflate like their identity with their beliefs. Like they identify with their beliefs. So if you're putting down their beliefs, you're kind of attacking them, and then they feel like the government needs to step in and protect their identities. I mean, this is where identity politics is born of, and that's all I was really saying about that.
Scott, if you wouldn't mind, since I jumped in a little bit late, Would you give me just like a brief recap of what I may have missed?
Yeah, we were looking at Jordan Peterson videos and kind of doing a reaction to them, and this had to do with the gender pay gap, first of all.
Okay.
And then we went into, how Jordan Peterson, he's kind of like an advocate for young men, and he kind of breaks down, gets emotional because he's really into his work, and, he feels strongly about it, and he's sad about it at times, and the left is calling him names and really just trolling him.
Well, they're attacking him because
even right now
he
he was called a fascist by Quick.
Oh yeah, just up the.
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is that
you're talking to a Jordan Peterson, basically expert.
Yeah, he's an expert. He definitely is. He's very thorough.
No, I'm talking about me. Like,
you a major fan?
Yes.
Oh, you're a Jordan Peterson
I
expert.
am a huge fan of Jordan Peterson, and I have followed his career.
Well, Quick Stick seems to think he's a Nazi. He's a fascist.
Well, okay. Let me address that real quick.
Can we say why? Can we get to why he thinks that?
Hold on. And let me interject here, because when you, rather than actually discuss a topic, and you immediately go to, as soon as it's like your opportunity to rebut, you go, well, he's a fascist, he's a Nazi. You've ended the conversation. You've completely ended the conversation, and all you've proven is that person has absolutely no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Right. Yep.
Okay? They're just throwing out this buzzword that really doesn't mean anything anymore.
Amen.
And it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay? If you want to call somebody a Nazi, then explain how, explain why, and use historical context.
And that's what I'm saying. Amen. So you're open to explain that,
Yeah, but no, they never do. They never do. They call you a Nazi because they're lazy. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know. They don't watch the news in detail like some of us do. Okay? And it's just absolutely insane.
Right.
And
There's no reason for it.
This is why we have the show, so that you can come on and discuss it.
Exactly. And that's why we have the show, because we're talking about it and we're dissecting it piece by piece. And that's all you have to say. That's not.
Mike got mad.
That's not really adding to the show. You know what I mean?
It's not. It's not.
And what?
Yeah.
That's it. That's all you got to say. That's the most educated thing you can say.
Yeah, and it's like
energy.
This,
you ask me.
people that tend to have that kind of response is they're responding to emotional stimuli. Okay, they heard somebody else say that this person here and that person there was a Nazi, so therefore I want to sound smart. I'm going to also call them a Nazi and not question, well, why are they calling this person a Nazi?
And you also don't want to be caught defending them. Ooh.
Oh God, no!
That makes
you a Nazi.
I mean, obviously,
you're a Nazi, and you're a Nazi.
Here's the funny part. Here's the funny part, guys. Here's the funny part. I got into Jordan Peterson a few years ago before I even got involved into politics. I had no idea about politics. I didn't really know what it meant to be on the left or the right. I was completely ignorant to it. And
you were the median average of all the American public. Congratulations, you're normal. Now you're learning.
I'm just saying, I got into him because I just really thought what he was saying made a lot of sense, and it was helping me with some of my.
And notice Jordan's approach. Dr. Peterson's approach is calm, measured, responsive, not emotional, not outbursting. He cried because he understands the weight of what men in general go through.
Yeah, he relates to it because he's a man.
Oh wait, she's shaking her head. I got to hear this.
Yeah. What do you got, Doc? You're on.
Okay, so this is the biggest misconception, and this is why I hate YouTube. And a lot of the interviews that cut off that section of why he was crying. When he was addressed about the whole thing in regards to that, obviously, when he started doing his speeches and he started to become famous, obviously Ben Shapiro was the one who rose him to basically fame. And I think that's a very well-known knowledge across the board.
Right.
He was talking about very specific the fact that in his case, it just kind of happened organically that the younger male population ended up being more I can't see with these. Sorry. Ended up being more attracted to his message. However, in the video, he says that was not his intent. His intent in life is to spread the message of love, to spread the message of how to make people feel better, including women. I mean, if you read one of his books called The Meaning of Life. The Meaning of Life is a fantastic book. It's one of his earlier books. And he just got, when he was explaining why he got emotional, is because he is being attacked for supposedly not supporting women, when in fact he actually devotes everything that he does in his life to his wife and his daughter. And if nobody knows exactly what has happened in his personal life, then you know nothing about Jordan Peterson.
Didn't one of his children die?
Well, the reason why he partially is the way he is, his wife had had stage 3 cancer, and this was around 2000, I believe, 19. She had stage 3 cancer, and he openly admitted that was too rough on him. Mm-hmm. And he became addicted to benzodiazepine called Klonopin. Yep. He was rushed to a hospital in Moscow, and he actually lunged at his daughter because he was being hospitalized. So, and he was under pressure from the publisher to write the second book, the follow-up to 12 Rules of Life.
Right.
And that's something that he talks about very, very openly in Beyond Chaos. Uh-huh. And to me, when I was reading it, I'm not gonna lie, he is so open about it. And he says, now my goal in life is to protect the women in my life who were there to nurture me.
I know that's right.
And it's to see a man say to be brought down to tears, and he's just not brought down to tears just because of politics. I've seen the man break down to tears for the fact of just sheerly realizing that he's no longer an atheist.
That was a tough one to watch, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
That was a long road to watch him march down. That was tough.
Yeah, and that I kind of forgot about the atheist part. So,
Quick Sticks also wanted to respond about his fascist comment, and he says that.
What was the comment?
Well, he says, first of all, that Jordan Peter's a fascist, a real fascist. And then he comes back and he says that he's pro-Russia. He uses dog whistles constantly. He has openly said he would want to ban gender reassignment. He is definition or fascist.
By definition.
As far as I understand it.
Well,
did he actually say that? Did he actually say that? Did he actually say he wants to ban gender reassignment surgery?
I think he's for minors.
For children.
That's what I'm about
for
to
minors.
say. For minors.
Yeah.
Why did you leave that important detail out of it? See, that's
because he can't. Because oftentimes people that think this, they can't nuance and compartmentalize. If an adult wants to do what they want with their body, that's up to them. Right? But when you start talking about young children under the age of 18, minors, okay?
The ones that can't get a beer or get a tattoo or buy cigarettes. Okay, yeah.
Right.
Those guys.
Okay. To make life altering to make right to the point to where these children who have a hard enough time figuring out what they want to even be, right? but let an 8-year-old start taking, puberty blockers, or those are things you can't undo that. If you turn 18, you decide to do it. Hey, that's on you, right? But
right,
there's
but
a
even then, Mike, though, I have to cut in real quick, because even with adults, we're finding out now, with all that in the aftermath of all of this, that there are repercussions that are irreversible in adults. And guess what? These doctors did not disclose that shit. So with that being said, they should be held accountable if they're not informing you
disclosing
properly.
it, right?
You know what I'm saying? So
well, and one needs only talk to, the growing number of people who are detransitioning, right? And it's like, hey, if you're an adult, you want to do it on your own, go for it. But apart from that, to have
he hinted at it. I don't know. It's got to be more than hit. It got to be more than.
So Quick Sticks wants to know, what repercussions are you alluding to, Sophia?
I can give one for example.
The shit that happens to you when you have
that's very famous.
There's a lot of them, actually. There's some people who can no longer get an erection. There's some people who have reoccurring infections and they can't fix it. A lot of people have to keep going back and getting more surgery and more surgery and more surgery. It messes them up hormonally. I mean, it even can cause cancer. I mean, I can go on and on and on. I don't be talking out of the side of my ass. I read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
botched transition videos are out there to look at,
There was actually a doctor who experimented on this.
Only around 3%, according to WHO statistic. You can go on YouTube right now and see hundreds of people. That's 3%.
Man, Blair White's actually done a couple of good interviews with folks.
Oh, yeah, she's done an amazing job, and it's funny. Well, the thing is that she gets dismissed by the rest of the community because she's a traitor. A traitor simply because she's not towing the line and following the exact, ever meandering narrative of the community, right?
You're gonna be a nonconformist just like me, or you're a terrible person.
Okay,
exactly.
Quick Sticks, reference the statistics, please.
Well, I do want to address the whole fascist comment in regards to him being pro-Russia, because I know why he likes Russia.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessary. First of all, Russia during the Trump administration was a completely different monster. Russia was compliant. Russia, it is a known fact to a lot of people that Trump literally got off the plane, walked in, said, you're going to stop basically whatever you're doing, because I'm not going to curse online. And
don't make me look bad. Shit.
And turned around. The conversation didn't even last 10 minutes. Turned around and got right back on his plane and left.
Well,
and
he also collects old Russian art.
Specifically Soviet art.
Right, Soviet art. But to pretend that the Russian history is the Russian government, either of the last two or three, is kind of.
Hey, just an interesting side note. Did you know that Tsar Nicholas and King George were cousins and considered almost? Nope, they were considered twins. They look so much alike. Look it up. I saw this a couple days ago. I was fascinated by it. And yeah.
So the whole thing is that Jordan Peterson has actually been labeled as the most hated man in Canada and the most hated man in the United States. So he has
by only a certain group.
Well, I gotta say, he makes the best subject of the Freedom Tunes animations. I mean, let's be honest. He's definitely the best character that Seamus has been able to use.
And
I can't remember the guy's name, but he does such a good job of the voices. Seamus does a phenomenal. He does such a phenomenal job of the voices. They're great. And my favorite one was the Ben Shapiro one. Did you see that one?
Did you see Ben Shapiro reacts to Ben Shapiro reacts to Ben Shapiro?
Yes, I saw that. That was awesome.
Hey, y'all, excuse me, y'all. Can I read quick sticks?
Okay.
Yes,
Back
please.
to you.
Back to
He's
you.
saying that I'm wrong. He's saying I actually overestimated. It's only 1% that regrets transition, and that's from a 27 studies over nearly 8,000 participants. So yeah, you are wrong. Sorry. That sounds fantastic.
Well, that wasn't the point. The point is, even if it is low, and I believe the percentage of people that regret the transition may be low according to some studies, but Jordan Peterson, he's against children.
What's the suicide rate after transitioning?
The same as it is before.
No, I heard that it actually went up. That it goes
No,
up.
it's
I hope not.
much higher.
That's what I'm saying, right?
I agree with you. Yes.
He's saying
Sophia's
extremely
right.
low. See, that ain't true. We're not all crazy, man. We read. We're gonna have to compare notes sometime because I know what I read. And she said the same thing that I said. And we didn't even know each other. So right?
Yeah, we have a lot in common actually.
Yeah.
At least
So
we
it's
cracked
not
each
like we
other
got
up.
together and conspired to come up with these statistics.
Well, you guys are all in the same echo chamber, so that's what it is.
Sure.
Well,
You're
her,
part of the
I,
same,
I,
This stuff.
her and
part of
I
the
both
same religion.
identify as Asian, so.
Yeah, I haven't seen that statistic as far as it going up, but I have seen and heard numerous times that it doesn't go down.
No, it definitely does go up, and that's something that I did have a conversation with Erica Irvin, which I mentioned in the last podcast, the actress from American Horror Story. That is something a long discussion that I did have with her. It's something that is very difficult, and that is why she decided to transition very late in her life. This is a woman in her 50s now. She transitioned in her 30s. And she's having such a hard time in her life, even to this day. She moved from Hollywood to Washington to find love, and I don't know the exact details, but I'm guessing that obviously, it's very tough for them.
Can I ask Quick Stick something real quick?
Go ahead.
Sorry. I'm trying to listen to you and listen to him. Jesus, I'm ready to come through the damn. Anyway, he said that the reason the suicide rate goes up with transgenders is probably because they're treated like trash. So let me ask you this: do you agree that that's the same reason why why mostly men kill themselves?
No, I do not agree with that at all.
I'm going to go there, Jason.
The reason for that, it is because they are unfortunately, okay, let me put myself on the transgender perspective, okay? Let's say I was transgender. Unfortunately, they're still going to deal with body.
What? Oh my God. Like, really?
I'm going to apologize that side for a second.
Trans people are far more likely to face sexual assault than you or I. Are you freaking kidding me? Jesus Christ. Sorry.
That is actually a higher statistic now.
No. Yeah, that is very factually based.
Yes.
Women been getting molested and raped all of our lives, and a lot of times we don't even say shit about it. So let's not go there. Let's not go there.
Sometimes facts aren't politically correct.
A lot of it is not even reported. And you know what? You can go to certain police stations and you'll see stacks and stacks and stacks of rape cases that just sit there that haven't even been touched. So I'm like, with that being said, they never make it into statistics.
Well, the issue with the trans community is in regards to the suicide rate is the fact that they're still gonna it's a mental disorder. Let's call it for what it is. It is a mental disorder. As we've spoken before, gender is not fluid. The idea of you being in another body is impossible. Your chromosomes are going to be what your chromosomes are, unless you are, by any chance, you have defective chromosomes, which happen with intersex people and hermaphrodites.
Well, where are they getting these stats
and androgyny.
These stats,
So-
where he has to break down, where is he getting these stats from?
Right, and I want
it's
I want
easy
him
to
to
say.
I want him to answer that question. He said that transgender people probably kill themselves more after transitioning because they're treated like trash. And I want to know if he's holding men to the same standard, since men also kill themselves a lot. They said 80% earlier, right?
So
in that video.
Well, 80% of all suicides are men. Yes, but
So,
well,
that's a big number.
I think we're comparing
Is it
two
because
very
they're
different, very data
Mike's
sources,
right.
two very different data sources.
Okay, so then let's put it.
Okay, but I mean, the point is that he's saying it's because trans people are being treated like trash. So what's the reason as to why men kill themselves? Does he have the same
Okay,
empathy
then
for
let's
them?
call it for what it truly is. It's because they're putting themselves in that position.
A lot
and
of
they're
times
not
they
getting
do.
the psychological help that they need.
Wait, are you saying that men? Are you saying men put themselves in that position?
No, transgenders. A lot of them
Oh.
prostitute, or
Well-
they have or they want to expose the pastor they had sex with and things like that. You know, it's crazy.
Well,
so then what they,
I
yeah,
think
so
I
then
think
they
there's a lot
transition
more.
and then they're still unhappy. I mean, it is a very sad thing. Of course, suicide is not an easy topic.
Men face issues because of toxic masculinity, so they kill themselves because they feel like toxic males.
And
But-
are we sure he's not like a GPT script? This is feeling really pretty predictable.
You know, and in all honesty, it's
that shit.
that you took the words right out of my mouth.
That's how I
control.
I mean,
Makes sense.
as someone who has been through a life altering and very close to, kind of crossing that line myself. Okay, I can tell you from firsthand experience, and it wasn't anything because of toxic masculinity. Okay, and without going into too much detail, I sat in a location for the better part of about 4 hours by myself, contemplating what I was going to do. Okay. And all the things that had happened in the previous 30 to 45 days, okay, were, and I don't want to kind of reveal too much just because it's still something I'm not very comfortable talking about, at least in this format. Going through that sense of complete betrayal, abandonment, discarding, okay, where all the effort and all the work and all the things that I had done to the very best of my ability didn't amount for shit. Okay, it was one day you wake up on your birthday, mind you. This is when this all this shit happened on the beginning of it happened on my birthday, and then 45 some odd days later is when this particular, and it was all the build up from there. Okay. And so when you look at, at least from my own personal perspective, okay, and obviously people will do this for other reasons, but for me, going through that situation and contemplating and going through, seeing how I got to the position where I'm at, looking back and going, yeah, I wasn't perfect, but I wasn't abusive. I wasn't into alcohol. I wasn't into drugs. I had a full-time job. I worked my ass off. I provided for my wife, for my 3 children. Okay, put a house over their head, put my wife through college, put my wife through graduate school. Okay, and to be betrayed the way that I was betrayed because reasons, it wasn't good enough. Okay, now those that go through that situation when they're in a
But we have
scenario
our
where,
love story, Mike.
well, yeah, but you and that's
We don't have the orchestral backup. When we got the orchestral backup, we can go into that. Okay.
But the point is that having been that close to the line myself, okay, and mind you, I didn't do the normal, I didn't imbibe any chemicals. I was completely sober. Hell, I barely drink. Mitzi will tell you. Okay, I still have beers in the fridge that I bought 2 months ago, and I bought 2 6-packs, and 5 of them are still sitting there from 6 months ago.
Jesus,
we believe you, Mike. Move on. We believe you.
But my point is that when for as close as to the line that I got, okay, I had to, in a condensed format, review my life up to that point, and then see in my mind the consequences of the after effects.
Now he's telling us. Now he's telling us he doesn't think we know what toxic masculinity is. I mean, dude, you ain't even got no point. Toxic
nothing runs faster than a liberal with a goalpost. Let him go.
Exactly.
Just stop commenting because we're gonna just.
No, he can comment. No, he can comment all he wants. We're just not gonna.
I'm gonna ignore him because he don't even make no sense.
So as I was saying, coming this close to the line and seeing how I got to this point, if I make this decision, what happens? And I kind of forced myself into this, like, out of body experience to imagine what could have happened. And the risk of having it become so much worse, I talked myself into saying, whatever hell you think you're going through, if you cross this line, literally cross this line, it will make everything that you're trying to improve far worse. So you're going to have to buck up and put up with this, so that way the consequences of this choice, if you make it, don't occur. And that was a very difficult decision. Very difficult decision. And obviously I'm still here, so with no injury, whatever, it's all, but maybe in another episode I'll feel more comfortable about going into more detail as far as how and what happened.
But you see, Mike, you were brave enough to actually confront your demons, and you were brave enough to actually, and I'm very proud of you, because I had not heard that story, and I don't want to start crying. But that was brave of you. And most of these people that decide that they want to transition, they should be going through and getting the mental health that they need. Sophia, you're on mute if you're talking to us.
I'm on mute. I was talking to the kids real quick.
Now, I want everybody to know this real quickly, that the guy that wants to move definitions around has taken us completely off of the feminism topic into a corner case that none of us, and certainly not the person trying to run the chase, are comfortable in, except with quick talking points and gotchas.
It's just a distraction, and you're right, Jason.
Right. These are important topics. Everybody on the planet is arguing about them.
Yep.
I think I'd rather listen to them. No offense, guys. I adore you all, but I'm not in a position to offer anything really interesting. And I think
so. Then
we've been trapped.
Let's go back to feminism. I actually have a lot to say about feminism,
which is why I thought you showed up.
Thank you.
Yeah. What is your thoughts on feminism, Mitzi? Dr. Stark.
I am completely against feminism.
What does that mean? What does feminism mean to you?
Well, feminism is an evolved ideology, and it really rose up during the times of the ERA.
Yeah.
The ERA was a very, very well thought out movement, and they were basic, and a lot of people think that it was anti-women. It was actually very pro-women, and understanding that the 14th Amendment gives it's basically a double backup for freedom of rights. And by that time, women's suffrage and the right to vote had already been passed.
So let me ask you this, just to make it clear for the audience. Do you think it's right for women to have equality with men in the workplace? Like, as far as equal opportunities? Do you specifically think that women should have the same opportunities that a man should have?
Yes.
Okay. Do you think that women should be able to vote?
I have a caveat. But the woman must be able to perform the exact same tasks.
I agree. We all agree. I think we all can all agree on
merit. It should be merit based, not gender based.
Not gender based. Right. I'm saying that's why I've said it very carefully. I said opportunities, not outcomes. Like,
correct.
That's huge.
So
I don't think anybody would argue against that.
Right.
Well,
same
not in this panel.
During
Well,
the
we know who would.
Right.
During the 80s, women were not known to have high held positions or high ranking positions as executives, CEOs. It was a time when the movie Working Girls came out and things like that. And it was great to show that men were more powerful. I mean, even in shows like my favorite show, Dallas from the 80s, it was just a very masculine entertainment value. However, I actually have the personal experience that my fiance's mom was the executive director of, I want to say the title properly, the executive director of security technologies for Harris in Atlantic City. She was a direct report to Donald Trump. She did it for 3 hotels, and then for the casino, and then for a restaurant.
That's
And
huge.
this was around, we're talking about 1984, between 1984 that she started this. So for people to say that women don't have the equal rights of
Right. Well,
women having
what I'm trying to
opportunity
do,
to
rather
reach those
than
kind of jobs.
what I'm trying to do for my audience is kind of just get to how you feel about feminism, like define it. What are your beliefs about women's rights? And then, because feminism
Yeah, give
can
us
mean a lot of
give
different
us a
things
summary.
to different people,
Yeah, give us a summary on your thoughts of like kind of where women should be in society, because I think that's probably a nutshell of what Scott's trying to get into.
Yeah.
I truly believe.
We have strict no bloviation alert. We have no bloviation.
Oh, I'm out of here, man. You guys.
Why'd you invite us?
We don't bloviate here. I'm gonna have a alarm that says bloviation alert.
I grew up in a traditional home where my father was the provider, my mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I grew up with that mentality.
Me too.
I'm basically a stay-at-home mom, and in that aspect, I see the nurturing and the difference. And it is a cooperative union between my parents. It has nothing to do with my dad saying, "Oh, okay, it's Saturday. You have," or
Well, that's what I'm
"You
getting
belong
at.
in the
Like,
kitchen.
do you
Go get
think
me a
that it's
sandwich."
bad? Do you think that it's bad for women to not want to stay at home? Like, do you
I
think
do not think it's bad for women to stay at home if they have the ability to it. However, family comes first.
I
And,
agree.
in,
I agree.
In defense of a working mom, I've got a guy that works for me right now, flat out genius. Dad stayed home with 6 kids. Of the 6, 4 are certifiable, like world-class humans. The other 2 are just regular, okay. But it's a doable thing, and men can nurture. But
of course, men can nurture. I'm one of them.
Yeah, well, so it can happen, but it's risky business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
but
doable. It's doable and admirable.
Yes, a man can stay at home. That's
And then some men have to do it. They could be widowed. I mean, I don't know if it's called a widow if you're a man, but you know what I mean. Sometimes you just get forced in that kind of situation. But I mean, generally speaking, women are more nurturing than guys. I mean, that's just nature, in my opinion.
Well, and Lyndon B. Johnson is also another person that was a huge factor into the fact of what feminism has become today, and the fact of the independent mentality that the postmodernist Marxist Leninist ideologists and narrative have pushed. And that is one of the things that I had mentioned to you a little bit, Scott, in regards to the Great Society. When Lyndon B. Johnson passed a lot of the socialist programs that he passed, one of them was to tell women You cannot get married if you want to obtain benefits.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that on a previous stream, as far as how LBJ and like the Great Society really decimated the minority, population from
Right,
because
but it also affected the family unit.
overall, yes, but it was focused on the minority population because if you look at the Black American family, well, check this out. You look at the Black American family between say the 1920s and the 1950s. Okay, I don't have the exact numbers off the top of my head, but the intact families was staggeringly higher than it was today. The divorce rate was staggeringly lower than it is today on across the board, and some of that has to do with cultural norms, right? But after the Great Society was implemented, and as that policy evolved, or should I say devolved, it broke up not just families in general, but more specifically it broke up the Black family. It broke up the minority family, right? And I think more so in the Black community than say the Hispanic community, because I think traditionally, one thing culturally that the Black community and the Hispanic community care is the importance of family, right?
It took
we see it
5 years. 5 years for them to get Lyndon B. Johnson to stop saying on camera the N-word.
Well, yeah. Well, he also had a reputation of just whipping his dong out because he was real proud of it. Sorry, Jason.
And
it's history.
I
have that problem at work.
The GI Bill and what he did to Black soldiers.
Well, and I have yet to confirm this, but I remember years and years and years ago, before like the internet was as
how
big
we
as
get
it
on
is
that
now.
topic now?
Yeah.
Well, I think
we're trailing off a little bit.
Yep.
And the whole thing, and my
kind of the origins
was
of where it devolved.
That mentality of Lyndon B. Johnson making women feel that they cannot get married because otherwise they're not going to get money. Then women started to become independentized, but not in the proper way that they should be. And instead, they did not want to have family units because what did they want to reap? They wanted to reap the benefits from the government. And while there's plenty of people that truly deserve benefits, because yes, I agree that there's plenty of people that are in need in this country. There were women who, unfortunately, no matter the race, at this point, it wasn't a race thing, but there were women who just chose, you know what? If I'm going to get a certain amount of money and I don't have to work, I'm just not going to get married. And that was part of somewhat of the beginning of a feminist, independent, I am woman, hear me roar.
Well, it kind of lined up in an unfortunate way. The underlying impetus was to destigmatize single motherhood, because the single motherhood was a guaranteed freeze zone to poverty. The social stigma, the emotional weight, and basically the economic hardship of single motherhood was the reason for it. Unfortunately, it quickly progressed from destigmatizing to incentivizing.
Yeah,
because of
the
arguments. And so that's the nasty part of any fix, is if it's applied once and never analyzed and not monitored quickly in feedback, things tend to run away. And that's kind of what happened. And that's what led to what you're talking about, is that
exactly
the female female was presented with the
Productions
option of marrying the government.
Quick Stick says, I think single motherhood should be stigmatized.
Oh, he just corrected himself.
I'm about
Well,
to say, well,
So-
apparently he has. Obviously he has never actually.
Or
had
he
a
means
child in his womb,
destigmatized. Sorry.
he
so
corrected
has no
himself.
comment in the
Yeah.
matter.
Well,
He corrected
it's now seen as heroic, so he got his way. But-
not really necessarily, because I don't get that. I don't get that at all. And I work and I'm a single mom.
You mean your real world sample doesn't match what I'm seeing on the TV over here?
Not at
Wow.
all. Not
I'm
at
gonna have
all.
to think this over then. God.
In the real world, I'm working and I get assistance, and I'm a single mom. So I'm a stay-at-home mom part-time, and I work part-time, and I get assistance. And if I make a little bit more, I will lose my assistance, but it's not enough to do it on my own. So I'm kind of stuck in a cycle, and I'm trying to get out of it by starting.
You have to pull yourself up by your
But
bootstraps.
Sophia,
I'm trying to get out of it
different
by
case.
starting my own entrepreneurship and networking with people like Scott. And it's not easy to get out of the cycle, but I will agree with Jason. There are a lot of people, what we call it now, who work the system and they get lots of money out of the government.
Well, yeah.
But because
Well, and that's-
I'm not that kind of person, and I only been in subsidized housing, not for long, really, fairly recent. And so I don't know how to work the government and all that kind of stuff, I was brought up to work and make my own money and all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
Me
Now,
compared
that's
to everybody
not-
else, I'm
But-
getting.
and she's not going to
little-
allow herself to plug. She's not going to plug herself. But I'll just tell you, her side hustle provided all the Christmas gifts for my nieces last year. So just
Yes.
be aware of that.
And he was, Jason was the first one who invested in my little online business, which is an Etsy shop. And I'm
Kick
forever
ass,
gra-
Jason. That's awesome.
I'm
dude.
forever.
Are you
grateful.
kidding? It was all about me. I need 7 nieces.
He mentored,
7 nieces.
he
How the hell am I
mentored,
going to
he
get 7
mentored me
nieces?
a lot and
Jason, you
gave me
didn't
lots
wear
of
the earrings?
ideas.
You didn't want to become transgender?
Well, the funny part is I'm probably the only guy that carries a purse, but let's not go into that.
And Scott did too. Scott invested in me a lot. He bought a bunch of earrings for his whole female side of the family too.
It was the laziest thing I've done in years. Oh no, but it was very socially conscious. Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
There you go. And Quick Stick says, I don't think the answer needs to be you need a man.
Why
That's
would I
all
need
I'm
a man
saying.
though?
Huh?
So children don't need a father.
No.
But why do you say that? I want a man. Why would I not need a man? That's the whole thing. That's a
But he's
crazy
saying the
ass-
ultimate answer shouldn't be you need a man. It should be
I think
whose
it
children
should.
are
How
they?
do you
or
procreate?
you
I
need
think
the
it
government.
should be though.
Maybe.
To me, it's very simple. I mean, okay, you don't need a man. Whose children are they? The problem is
They're not the government's children.
You have 2 questions. Yeah.
Oh, they might disagree with you on that one.
You didn't lay down with the government and have sex? Like seriously?
Yeah, I'm just
So-
not sure what he
so-
means.
so-
I'm not
so-
sure if he means
There are terms of where you're getting screwed by the government.
So apparently, to this guy, so apparently by his comment, children shouldn't have fathers, and we shouldn't procreate naturally.
I don't know.
It's
I'm
coming.
not
You
even-
might as well be ready for that.
Okay, I will say this, Quick Sticks. I don't think that should be the priority or the highest goal to say you don't need a man. I think the priority should be that a man and a woman make a conscious choice to have children and make healthy decisions when it comes to the children and their household. Now, in any event, though, if anything happens and you do end up a single mom, then yeah, we shouldn't be stigmatized and we should get help. That's what I'm saying. But to just say,
Okay, let me ask you this then: for how long?
it just
Ooh, see- now
depends,
see, okay.
Mike. That's where it gets tricky at. You say
But
for
the-
how long, but
Right.
if it's designed for you to really never get out of it, then how do you get out of it? So that's the thing.
Well,
This is an argument
Jason.
of dynamic systems, man. You're getting into dynamic systems. The minute you
Bring-
put a
bring it on,
discrete
Jason.
number.
Listen
Pardon?
to Jason.
No, dude.
I'm listening.
I've done math simulation a few times. The problem is the minute you put a hard discrete decision, it always sets up an oscillation that blows things up. And the first thing people do is put in another discrete hard decision. and it's another oscillation.
So let
the
me answer my own question as far as for how long. Okay.
Go for it.
For as long as that person is making actual effort to get themselves out, and I think Sophie's a good example, right? She's admitted that she's on certain assistance programs and stuff, but she's actively trying to get herself out. And she's got a very good point, is that it's very difficult to get out, right? But the fact that she's just like, well, I'm just going to sit here and take this this assistance and stuff. No, she's not doing that. Okay, and for as long as she's actively doing that, whether it be going to school, whether it be finding an entrepreneurial opportunity, whether she be, she's actively doing something so that she's not reliant on the system for decades,
indefinitely,
right.
Indefinitely.
And also, I want to add
so that window of time of for how long can vary from person to person. Okay,
right.
I've been on assistance for a short time. I was on for about 3 or 4 months. That's as long as I needed. I got off. When the stimulus stuff came out for COVID, I didn't apply for it. It's like, hey, I don't need it. I'm good. I'm working. I have a job. I'm working. You know what I mean?
When I got sick, I was in.
We're not saying that, quick sticks. We didn't even say that. But I also wanted to add that, it's not optimal because, you have a roof over your head. Yes, you get assistance. But there are other setbacks that come with it, which I personally can't settle for, because it comes with a neighborhood that's not so great, comes with public school that's not so great, and a lot of other obstacles that we face. And, they don't like to put a lot of work into our units and stuff that goes on here, that shouldn't really be happening. But hey, because you pay less, you better put up with it type of stuff, So it's a lot of things that are really not acceptable, but you put up with it because you can't really find, you don't have the finances. Okay. So me personally, though, I can't settle for that. I want better for myself and my kids. And I have a personal drive to try to get myself out of it,
And hey, the real solution can come from meeting other people, from expanding your
networking,
and you start meeting people that can give you opportunities, and you can kind of help them with things they need that will put money in your pocket and get you out of that situation. So pulling yourself up by your bootstraps sometimes entails
effort on your part.
Getting
and ironically, everybody that's on the show today has played a part in that in my life, believe it or not, for real. And that's part of it. It's not to say, oh, well, just do it yourself and pull yourself out of bootstrap. That's very unrealistic. But, you have to also reach out and network and speak up and ask for help. And you have to overcome your pride, because I had that problem too for a while. I didn't want to ask for help because I felt ashamed, so I just quietly tried to do what I can do. But, you got to overcome that pride and ask,
I got a dumb question. It just kind of molds this. Do you consider that assistance a positive or negative from a feminist standpoint? I know you don't consider yourself a feminist, but let's just paint you like you are. You're pretty much what we've been told for about 40 years the feminist ideal is supposed to be. All right. You're capable because of economic situations. You're not flourishing, but you're capable. You're engaged. You're raising kids. Do those benefits help that, or are they causing that situation?
It's kind of more like it's causing a situation but not just that, like the fact that kids don't have a dad also causes the situation. So I don't know how to answer that.
It's a catch-22.
Yeah, because I'm capable to do much more with my life, but at the same time, I'm held back by having children. I can't just get into the world of work and be going 16 hours a day. I've done that. And then my kids were neglected. They didn't have the connection they needed with me. And so that doesn't work either. And then you have childcare expenses, and most of your money goes on that. And then you're just constantly trapped in a loop. So really, it's not helping. I thought of a good scenario one time, and I was like, You know how a teacher will tell you he gonna give you an A and then it's on you to keep it? Wouldn't the government save more money if they, single mom that really do need the help? I'm not talking about people who play the system. Wouldn't it be more helpful to help them get a home and then go from there? And they have to maintain it. And if they don't maintain it, then, they're obviously doing something wrong. But if you put them in a cycle of perpetual poverty like that, it's just a cycle that doesn't stop. It doesn't end. And you can't really pursue your ambitions like that. You kind of get stuck. So that's all
I think one of the problems with the system set up currently is you've got these discrete barriers. If you make more than this money, you make more than this much, suddenly you lost all that underpinning.
Right.
Well, remember what I was rattling about with the dynamic system? Well, look at the oscillation you just set up. It's destructive. And so there are very few people looking at the situation like, okay, where's the problem? Okay, if you're going to destigmatize single motherhood, well, could you encourage non-single motherhood? Can you encourage that family? Can you encourage that single mom to get out of it? And it can't be done in discrete steps. It has to be.
Let me just say this while we're talking about it, and we're spotlighting Sophia right now. I just want to say one thing that's kind of important to say. Yeah, but it's important to say is that from what I know of Sophia, she's a wonderful, hardworking, intelligent person. Because
no argument there.
We're all here only because we want to be here for our IPO.
That's right. Look at her, man.
Dibs.
She's doing a wonderful job raising her children. That is not easy. That is not.
It's not. I raised, I raised 3 kids with my, with my wife and stuff, and until that ended. But the point being is that I know how much work she puts into it, and
she's running a business. She's doing this podcast. She's trying to spread positive message despite anything that's going on. You know what I mean? Like, that's a wonderful person to be able to have that energy despite all of that. And so it's just hats off to you, Sophia.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate you a lot, and everybody on the show. I mean, you all have inspired me and helped me in many ways just by talking to me, mentoring to me. It all started in the Sargon group when I came in there as a lefty.
Well, we screwed that up.
Yeah, but even with Sophia saying what she's saying, she even reiterated earlier on, and she mentioned that even with as hard as she works, the little bit of money, the money that she gets, the income that she gets, okay, so she has a cap of how much money she can get, and in order to get assistance, and even with the assistance that she is eligible for, it won't be able to complement the income that she actually needs to be able to provide for her family. Yep. So in a way, that feminist support that's supposed to be given to her, it's not being given to her fairly, and it's not giving her the opportunity to truly succeed. So why have these programs that instead of helping women are actually taking them aback? I mean, women like her who actually deserve it should have it, but should have it for their actions.
For the effort.
Right.
By demonstrating their actions, not just because they're a single mother.
So let me ask you this, because this question kind of popped in my head. For those that are on, public assistance, right? And I'm a firm believer that there is a need for public assistance. However, there should be reasonable expectations with, if we give you this, then you should be doing this to continue receiving it. So in that regard, does the panel think that it's a good idea to do randomized drug tests to make sure that these people aren't?
Well, Mike, can I tell you about the reality of things like that? Like,
go for
it.
Absolutely.
The place that I live in is actually a private-owned place.
Okay.
And but they do receive government checks funding. And
Sure.
a lot of times the landlords are highly corrupt, you know? So
Yeah.
they want you in that system because a lot of the money that's supposed to be allocated towards the building, the maintenance and everything else, it's not being allocated, it's being pocketed. And so with that being
Sure.
said, they don't care if you're doing drugs. They don't care if the neighborhood's clean around here. They don't care if the sewer is working right, as long as they keep getting that money, you know? So
Right, of course.
there's a lot of corruption within the whole damn system. Excuse me.
Well, and that's no, but that's one of the, you know, unintended consequences of such large and vast and overbloated and unregulated and
unscrutinised.
All I'm saying is it's not entirely on the people who need the
Right.
assistance. You know what I'm
No,
saying? It's
I get that. No, I get that.
corruption of Section 8 properties that's a monument all its own.
Is huge.
That's hideous.
And the thing is, we actually have the technology nowadays to, you know, if there's a private company or even a publicly run company, the people that are running it, where that money goes. Okay, we have the technology now to track where that money goes and what it pays for it, right? But it requires, you know, oversight, and you know, which of
and
course
the key
adds
too for Sophia too. You got to understand, she needs to be in another environment where there's more opportunities available. From what I understand, where you're at in Corsicana, it's very limited as far as your
there's just not many opportunities. Period. You know, so you can't thrive in every environment. You know what I mean?
And I really believe, like, if she was in a bigger town or something like that, that she would actually do a lot better with her with anything she's trying to do, even her jewelry. She'd be able to set up.
That's my plan, y'all. My plan is to move in March or somewhere around there.
There you go.
I'm
and that'll
working
be
on
the
it.
way. I really feel like that would be the turning point for you when you get those opportunities and you're able to actually, because you're a smart person, you're hardworking, obviously you're going to be able to move right on into, but I think where you're at is just so dead that, you know, anybody would be stuck.
I definitely don't meet people like you guys around here, so that's for sure. And you, Miss Stark.
I do worry that I do worry that the system does have the tendency to pull the rug out from under her wherever she is, and that's the nature of an oversimplified system. And that worries me, because it's like, honestly, like I said, is she not the 1981 picture of feminism?
Right.
You know, if I pull it up on TV, she's a hero. There are Marvel comic heroes based on her, but
not anymore.
Well, see, that's why we want to talk about these things, so we can bring the complexity of it to the surface, because I'm sure there's more women like me, you know. And
we've built a lot of you. Yes, I would expect a few.
Well, I don't know if y'all built me, because I came from Germany.
That's right.
Well, you built your box. Sorry, let me put it that way.
Well, look, we've gone on for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, this has been a good stream.
Yeah, it's been a nice long stream.
I'm very grateful that you guys came on, and so glad
supporting
to see
us.
you finally, Jason.
It occurred to me,
but now I'm out. Oh, sorry.
Right. It occurred to me that Jason and I, we've been friends for a couple of years now, but I've never bothered like going through your Facebook page, because I'm just not that kind of like, you know.
You appreciate my privacy. I appreciate about that.
Exactly. And so like all this time, I thought you were like 28, 30, 33, somewhere in there. And I'm like,
I'm an old fart, sir. Sorry. I have the snark of a young man.
This is very true. This is very true. And you're the second person today that I've talked to, you know, online, that it occurred to me, you know, I've known this cat for like 8 years. I've never bothered looking through his profile.
That's just sad, Mike.
Nice to meet you, Jason.
Indeed.
Yeah, nice to meet you too in person. That was awesome.
For sure.
And thanks for the support. Thanks for everybody's support of the show.
Thanks for everyone's support.
Please like and subscribe, guys. Like, we're gonna constantly keep building and building and building and building, doing
I'm
our
going to
thing.
hop off and let you guys officially sign off.
Jason,
all right,
take care,
guys.
brother.
All
Good to
right.
meet y'all.
Have a good evening.
Have a good evening.
See you, buddy. Bye.
Yep.
Well, I've got to get to bed because I am planning a trip. I'm leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh, where are you going?
For a 1,000-mile trip north.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
You
So,
going to-
but
Make sure you
Something-
post plenty pictures. We want to see.
Yes, something I won't divulge here, but I'll tell you in chat.
Okay. Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. Peace out.
Be safe.
Bye. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good one.
All right, guys.
See you
Thank you
guys
so
next
much
time,
for joining
hopefully.
us. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us, everybody. Like and subscribe again. And
Hit
we'll
the
be back
buttons.
next week with another topic. That's right.
And you guys always feel free to call in and always let us know. You can message us on Facebook or whatever and reach out to us and suggest topics or, let us know what you want to talk about.
That's right.
All right, you guys. Have a good one.
Have a good one. Y'all have a great evening.